Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Tuesday to all of you. It is a oppressively hot and muggy Tuesday here in the absolutely beloved state of Texas. There's just nothing better than walking outside at 7 o'clock in the morning and feeling like you just walked into someone's mouth. That's what life is all about. How are you guys doing? I see you're already popping it in the chat, all of you guys. Patrick Spellman asks, is it too early to be gooning? No gooning allowed. We do not goon here at the ASTROLABE on the King Pilled channel. Taylor Brown, no hoodie today. No, in fact, it is a hoodie. I can't quite see the hood because there's a mound of hair on top of it. But this is actually, you'll appreciate this, Taylor. I don't know if you can see it here. I'm just here so I won't get fined. You should appreciate that one. Glonk Respector, what's up, buddy? Best name on the internet. He says Matt just started doing a morning show so he could tell all the friends GM. That's right. GM to all of you. Well, I've wondered about that. Everyone just writes this out. I never actually hear people say it. So you have all your group chats that they fill up with GMs every morning. How should that be read? Do you read that as GM or do you read that as good morning? I always read it as good morning. Like my mind just fills in good morning, and I don't read it as GM. But I wonder what the rest of you guys do. What's up, John Lloyd? He says he loves this new time slot. Keep it up as long as you can. Well, that is the plan. The plan is to do this Monday to Friday, every day, approximately 10 o'clock Central. Depends on how long it takes me to get the stream set up and everything. We're still working on. We're gonna have a new intro song for it. Cooper and I were, well, I was gonna say Cooper and I were working on it. Cooper was working on it last night, and I was listening and saying, "Hey, that sounds cool. I like that. Do more of that." So you guys will hear that here pretty soon. And then what else? What else? I'm working on coming up with a logo for it. I'm using ChatGPT. I'm flogging the AI, the large language model, to give me the results that I want. And we're coming up with some pretty cool stuff. So we should have that the channel art. I guess it won't be channel art, but it'll be the show art. You guys should have that pretty soon. I think you guys will like it. It's pretty cool. Let's see here. So Glonk says his internal monologue says good morning. All right, well, that decides it. From now on, all of you, your internal monologue has to say good morning because Glonk has decreed it so. Curse World Problem says alternate show title, widespread theft of company time. Yeah, I was talking to Cooper this morning, and we were talking about what sort of audience we get, whether if we do a show like in the evening or in the morning, and I was thinking, it seems like maybe we're getting, when we do our show that starts at like 4 or 5 p.m. Central, that we're actually hitting right in the middle of probably most people's commute time. Most people who are either they're just leaving work or they're just getting home from work, and they're maybe right in the middle of the commute or something like that. So maybe it's not that convenient of a time. And it's also, he pointed out, it's also the right at the same time as a lot of other people's shows. So you end up splitting the audience. There's only so much time to go around. And so maybe this morning show, maybe that does work better. I can't even fathom how Justin Campbell does his morning after show, and he starts at like 6 a.m. or something inhuman like that. I can't. I like getting up that early when I can, but there is no way I would be in a place where I could actually like come on and talk coherently. Cooper's heard me at 6 o'clock in the morning. He could vouch. Michael Robertson said, "Love the hair, but you're starting to trend toward Yarvin aesthetics." Yeah. The hair is going to be going here pretty soon. I need a haircut very badly, especially. I mean, I can't not. I have to have my hair up when I'm walking outside anywhere because I might as well be wearing a quilt on the back of my neck, and I overheat really fast. But then it's just very unmanageable. It gives me a headache if I keep it up for too long. And speaking of, I woke up this morning with a little kink in my neck, and I can tell it's going to turn into a nice little migraine right over here over my left eye, probably within the next 2 or 3 hours. So hopefully we get through the whole show today. But yeah, so I'm the locks are going to go here pretty soon. They're not going to go all the way. I think I'm probably going to take, I don't know, maybe 8 inches or so off of it, and that should lighten the load significantly. Patrick Spellman is pooping on company time right now. Man, you're a good multitasker. So you're getting paid to poop and hang out in the King Pilled chat on the morning Astrolabe show. This guy's living the life, man. Okay, so we've got a whole list of things to get to today. Some of these are just going to be funny. Some of them are going to be thought provoking. And some of them are, I don't know, there's probably some combination of the above. Shout out to the 2-Bit podcast, just gifted 5 King Pilled memberships. And the fortunate ones are Glonk, Glonk, Vulpus Persona, and Cooper. Cooper is now a member. Welcome, Cooper. I hope you enjoy your stay as part of the King Pilled. And we also got Euthanasia and SB. Welcome, you guys. Welcome to the King Pilled. If you guys would like to be a member of the King Pilled, basically all you get out of it is your name shows up as green, and you get to use maybe you can even use the emotes if you're not a member. I don't remember how I set it up. Anyways, if you want to support the show, then you could become a member, and then you can also, if you want to join the King Pilled Discord, this is another way you can support the show, and you can, as a benefit for that, you get to be part of a really fantastic community of people. We've got a bunch of different channels in there. We got a homesteading channel. We got a conspiracies channel. We got a music channel. We got a meme channel. We got a whole bunch of different stuff, and people are posting in there all the time. So you could go to kingpill.com and sign up to join there. We'd love to have you. So when's the Bukele Tucker stream breakdown coming? Hopefully sometime later this week. We're still squaring away exactly when we're going to do our afternoon evening show. And I've got right now, the little man is in soccer and baseball. This is his second week in both of them. So I got to work around that schedule in the evening. But hopefully here on the later part of the week, we'll do one of those. Because that Tucker Bukele interview was just fantastic. There is so much to be gleaned from the things that the Bukele shared. You could really get a glimpse into his mind. You kind of get an idea of what sort of organization is behind him and what his angle and his direction is. This is the first time that I'd ever heard him speak English at length, like in a long conversation. I've watched a couple interviews where he just kind of for 5 minutes or so, and it seems like his English is getting better. And he also has you can tell he has, how'd you say this? He has a grasp of the language. He speaks kind of a certain dialect of the language that you can tell that he has spent a lot of time online, or he spent a lot of time around people who've spent a lot of time online. So I just like to imagine that somewhere in the internet there's an Anon account that's lurking among us that is Bukele himself. I think that would be pretty cool. All right, so let's start off with a couple of fun ones here. So this show here, this is the second time we've ever done this. If this is the first time you're hearing it, I'll just catch you guys up. This is gonna be a morning show, regular morning show, where I just go through my Twitter feed or YouTube videos that I've been watching and highlight some clips and some interesting little things and provide some commentary on it. Kind of a variety show. And this is just a YouTube stream only, so it'll only show up here on the YouTube channel. It will not be on the podcatcher. We also have the King Pilled podcast, where we'll do interviews with guests, and Cooper and I will do more long-form dives into a specific subject. And that one will show up on all the podcatchers. So you can get that, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever. If you go to Apple Podcasts, the logo is going to be the old logo, and it's still me. It's still Cooper, even though it says Matt Erickson and Steven Messina on the thumbnail. That's what that was the original co-host of the show. So if you see if you don't recognize the branding, it's still us. It's still King Pilled. All right, so first one here, we've got a banger to start off with. We've got a musical number here that well, you guys will see. Let's get this screen share going. Share audio, yes. All right, so Aaron, what? Why do white people have to be the way they are? Aaron Wexler. It's Aaron, Arynne. Give me a break. She says, did I just come up with the anthem for Frat Boy Summer? It's interesting she says Frat Boy Summer. So she's obviously signaling to a certain meme but still kind of keeping herself inserted in, plausibly deniably inserted into popular culture. But increasingly, popular culture and dissident right-wing Twitter culture are becoming the same thing. So let's see if she came up with the anthem for it.
Okay, but actually, I'm looking for a guy that's unvaxxed, drives truck. Homestead, Trump guy. Unvaxxed, drives truck. Homestead, Trump guy. I'm looking for a guy. I'm looking.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
Unvaxxed, drives truck. Homestead, Trump guy. Unvaxxed, drives truck. Homestead, Trump guy. Okay.
This is art, folks. It's art. The cringe is the purpose. If you cringed, that means you're feeling what you're supposed to feel. I don't know how to pronounce your name here, but Arxchian7 says, have you watched Bukele's speech at CPAC addressed to all Americans? Yes, I have. Thank you for reminding me of that. That actually, when we do the Tucker Bukele stream, we'll actually draw from that. So appreciate the reminder. Zen, yes, this message is approved. And that reminds me, I got to get the superpowers going here. Hopefully we don't get the stream taken down today. And actually, I got to let you guys know this. I learned yesterday when I went back, I was playing that Theo Vaughn clip with Tucker. And I went back and I looked at the little pop-up that it had given me, the little notification, and it says that occasionally if the stream if they identify copyrighted material on the stream, then they will take the stream down for as long as the copyrighted material is playing, and then as soon as it stops, they'll put it back up again, which is kind of an odd way to do it, I suppose, but okay. So if that ever happens again, if I'm playing something and all of a sudden the stream crashes, I'm going to let it play out and see. I'll just stop whatever it's streaming, assume it's a copyright thing. And instead of having to create a new stream and have two videos and all that, I'll just try to see if it picks right back up in the same stream. So if this happens again when it shouldn't be an issue today because I think the only video I'm sharing is from 2-Bit. So I assume that he's not going to copyright strike my channel. So if that happens again, then just so you guys know, you can hang out stay in the same chat and it should show up again. All right, so there was video number 1. Now here is, let's do another slightly musical one here. I'm going to switch the order of these. This one is a well-known star who, what we're seeing here is the first video that he ever produced. And this is shared by Cody Sanchez. If you don't follow Cody Sanchez on Twitter, she's fantastic. Business, like teaches you how to buy businesses, basically. And she said, next time you're afraid to start, remember this. So it's a TikTok of this famous singer, famous musical artist. And really, as I watch this, I'm struck by the fact that he's fallen off, honestly. Like this was, if he would have just kept this up, like he would be world famous. He would be, I don't know, the social reincarnation of the Beatles, effectively. Everyone would know his name. Everyone, he would be a household name. Everyone would listen to him, young, old, everyone. So in reality, this almost sends the opposite message that she's trying to convey, because she's saying, if you're ever afraid to get started, just remember what it looked like here. But he started at the top, and he's only gone down since then. So let's share this with you guys so you guys can commiserate what we've lost.
It was you walking out my door. You said you loved me just moments before. Why'd you lie? What the heck? Our love. It was you walking out my door.
It was just getting good. They cut it off right when it was getting good. Let's hear that again.
You said you loved me just moments before. Why'd you lie? What the heck? Our love.
Absolute banger. Man. The video's louder than the mic. Okay, hold on just a sec. Okay, is that better? For whatever reason, my mic thing automatically turns down every once in a while. I don't know why. Man, what Post Malone could have been if he would have stayed on the initial track. It would have been fantastic. I would listen to albums and albums of it. I would watch, look like how well produced it is. I would watch him dancing just like a machine, man. It's such a bummer. All right. Now here's a wholesome one. That last one was definitely wholesome. The first one was definitely wholesome too. So this is we'll say this is another wholesome one, but it's a little bit of a different vein. If any of you guys, how many of you guys grew up with brothers? Whether you're man or woman, I don't care. How many of you grew up with brothers? And were they younger or older? Because there's this particular dynamic between the brothers that really we've lost a lot of. This as part of the collapse of the family is not being able to learn from your brothers the way people have in the past. It's a little different for me because I'm 35. My sister, I was born in 88. My sister was born in 97. Next sister was born in 99, and my brother was born in 2001. So there's 12 years between me and my brother. So we didn't quite have the same sort of relationship growing up. We've gotten closer as we've gotten older. But well, Emmanuel's the last of 6. You're the baby, man. Patrick Spellman is the only child. Well, what I do know is that I didn't necessarily have a brother growing up that I could go out and get into trouble with, but I had friends that I could do it with that served as brothers. This is a valuable part of growing up, is having experiences like this one here. It says, if you didn't grow up with brothers like this, did you even live?
Yo, speed!
I'm actually too scared.
You got no.
You got this.
Oh,
That was literally perfect. Just keep your speed. You'll go right over.
Okay.
You'll be okay. You got it.
You guys are trying to kill him. No, we're not.
It sounds like a girl. I think that's a girl that says, you guys are trying to kill him. And I'm, no, it's fine. You'll be good. You got to push the guy. He looks like he's probably one of the youngest, or at least he's kind of timid. You got to push him. He's trying to go off this jump on his bike. He's got to go. You got to commit to this. You can't half-ass it. You got to commit to it. You got to fight through that fear. You got to overcome all of those impulses saying, stop. And if you do it, if you push through it and you launch into the air, then you feel it. You're like, oh, this was worth it. You got to navigate the landing as well. But this is what young boys have to be exposed to when they're growing up. They have to have this crew of young guys who encourages them to do profoundly retarded, risky things. Now, this isn't that risky, but this is a microcosm of it. You have to have the men pushing the men. It starts young. Men have this natural impulse. I just want to go fuck some shit up. I want to go launch myself into the air and figure it out on the way down. So here you go. Let's see how it ends.
He can't even do the jump at my house. He has protection.
He has protection. He's got a helmet. He's got his elbow pads. He's got protection.
Ready, Carter?
He's terrified.
All right. Full speed.
Let's go, Carter. Oh, shit! Are you good? Carter.
Whammo! Absolute faceplant. Well, that's one way to learn that lesson. See, now he has to get up and go do it again. He's sitting there, crying. Okay, fine, yeah, cry. Get it out of your system. Yeah, it sucks. It hurts. You probably just at least sprained your wrist, if not broke it. Might have knocked out a tooth. A mother watching this is like, oh my God, no, please, stop. But this is why men have to be around men. They have to have male-only spaces. As Patrick said, this is anti-longhouse activity. If you get young boys who will master this sort of thing, they get used to this. They develop that male camaraderie around encouraging a guy to do something where he massively fucks himself up. And then you get him to get up and go do it again. This is what men have to learn. They have to build through these experiences, and this is what will craft them into great men. You have to go through face planting off a bike jump. And what you learn from that is, okay, so I've got to power through it, but I've also got to pull up. I got to really lean into it. Right when I hit that edge, I got to launch off as fast as I can, and I got to pull up. So probably what's going to happen is next time he's going to master that, and he's going to be like, oh, shit, I did it. And the next thought is going to be, oh, shit, here comes the ground. Bam! And he's going to do it again. And he's got to get up, and he's got to do it again. This is fantastic. Ryan Isaac says, the tough thing is some moms becoming smothering after an experience like this and then longhouse the kid. Yes. You have to keep the women away. That's why the boys at some point they need to get out of the house. They have to leave the house. They have to go get in trouble. They have to go push the boundaries. They have to. They have to fuck up. If they don't, if you prevent that from happening, then you get a generation of weak, cowardly, simpering, feminized men, which is what we have now. You just gotta lean into it, man. You gotta lean into it. You gotta accept the pain, and you gotta grow through it. This is how men have fake teeth. Okay, so those are the more entertaining ones, but this next one is actually pretty entertaining in its own right. Getting a little more serious, but this is a great example of how the press is really more entertainment than information. And the guys who are the best at entertaining are the ones who are going to go viral. Like, ultimately, if you want to teach someone something, you have to teach it to them in an entertaining way. If you're really dry and boring, then it's bad education. It doesn't matter how good the information is. There has to be an entertainment component to it. You have to hold people's attention, because at the end of the day, we all have that, what you call a lizard brain or a monkey brain or whatever. We have that thing that's just like, ooh, shiny thing. And you want to watch the shiny thing. The best influencers, and I don't mean influencer in necessarily the internet sense, but the people who are the best at influencing are the people who recognize a great opportunity and, like the kid on the bike, they lean into it. Oh, here we go. This is going to be great. Let's lean into this one. So watch this. This was let's share the screen. This is a week or so old. There's a video on Piers Morgan. Now, if there's anyone who knows how to be entertaining in the media, it's Piers Morgan. I don't care what you think of his politics. The dude is an entertainer. He's a masterful entertainer. And he sees a great opportunity here. So he's got this panel with, is that Robert Wright? Like the worst named guy of all time? I think it is. So he's got Michael Knowles. He's got this leftist chick with a Golden Gate Bridge in the background. And then he's got, guy's name just escaped me. Kevin O'Leary, guy from Shark Tank, who's an interesting one to watch, actually. We might, depending on how the show goes today, I might go find a couple clips of him and bring that in, or touch on it on a future episode. But he's got some interesting thoughts. He's an interesting person to watch. Okay, we'll just play this, and I'll commentate it on as we go along. I'll speed it up just slightly here.
My fellow panelist here is celebrating that the rule of law has been vindicated and overturned 234 years of American legal tradition. I would challenge her to see if she could possibly articulate how and what crime Trump committed, because so far Alvin Bragg, the DA, has failed to do so. The judge in the case, Judge Merchan, has failed to do so, and they can't do it because Trump didn't commit any of the crimes for which he's been convicted.
Well, let's just ask quickly before I go to Kevin. Fantastic, just on that point.
Okay, so watch this. Watch Pierce just before it cuts away from him here, as Michael Knowles is starting to say, I would challenge this woman to actually articulate what is it that Trump did, that Trump's being charged with these crimes. What actually is the crime? And watch Pierce's face right before it cuts away.
To do so. The judge in the case, Judge Merchan, has failed to do so.
He's like, ooh, here's something. Here's an opportunity.
And they can't do it because Trump didn't commit any of the crimes for which he's been convicted.
Well, let's just ask quickly before I go to Kevin.
So he jumps in, quick. Gotta ask real quick. Can you do that?
Kevin, fantastic. Just on that point, what crime did Trump commit?
Now look at his face. He's like, I got her. He knows exactly what's coming. He's been doing this long enough. He knows exactly what's coming.
It was financial crimes. It was white collar crimes. That is exactly what they charged him. He was convicted on.
What was the crime?
It's New York State law.
There you go.
I understand. What was the?
No, okay, now he's got her. He knows he's got her. He's digging in. He threw that out. There was the opportunity. Maybe she just answers real quick. Okay, now we move on. She threw it out there, and she started. It was crimes. Like what are you talking about? He committed crimes. Like, why else would he be prosecuted? There were financial crimes. He's running for president. He can't commit crimes. This is a woman that somehow got herself to the point where she's on a panel like this. So she's got like some capacity to navigate society. And she's like, "What is this? How do you even ask this question? What do you mean crimes? What do you mean? He committed crimes. He was prosecuted. The legal system would never just like prosecute someone that wasn't actually guilty." Which clearly you can infer from her background, if the subject of the crime was, let's say, looked a little different, all of a sudden it would flip that switch for, okay, run this program. Run the program that talks about how biased and distorted and corrupt the justice system is. But in the case of Trump, the rich white billionaire who represents all the things that I've been trained to hate about reality. Well, it's crimes. He committed crimes. You just what? How would you ask? How would you even doubt it?
The crime. It is new.
Francesca,
I don't even like it is literally
hang on,
he just got convicted on 34 counts.
Francesca, what was the crime?
Of like cooking the actual books.
What was the crime?
You are not allowed. So you are not allowed to use your own financial, like your own money, to pay off somebody, and then he logged it as something different. He logged it as just a regular payment, but he was actually paying off this porn star to keep quiet. Which, if he hadn't been running for,
oh, she's picking up steam. Okay, she started to figure it out. Now you can imagine in her head at first she's like, oh fuck, and then it starts coming. Okay. Oh yeah, actually I'm doing good. Here we go. I'm getting it now.
President would not have mattered, but he was, and so it impacted campaign finance laws in New York State. Okay, that is what Juan Merchan just oversaw this. Alan Bragg brought these charges because Michael Cohen, his sister, was already sentenced to 3 years to do it.
Let's just go before Kevin. I'll be very, very, very patient. We'll come to you.
Look, I'm no expert. Let me just say, hang on.
No,
Michael,
Francesca,
you are no expert.
by the
That's
way.
federal law.
Hang on.
Oh man, I'm no expert. Yeah, no kidding. You are no expert. I wonder how you wound up here if you're no expert. The reason you wound up here was precisely to set up this sort of interaction. And look at, let's see here.
That's campaign finance.
That's very patient.
Alan Bragg brought these
Look at
charges
Pierce.
because
Pierce is just in his element. Oh yeah, man. Yeah, man. This actually isn't Robert Reich, just some other guy named Mark or something. But he tries to step in. He feels for her. He's like, oh man, let me try to give you an assist here. And Michael and Pierce are just like, nah, man, we just got our clip. We just got exactly the clip we wanted.
Michael Cohen, his sister, was already sentenced to 3 years to do it.
Let's just go before Kevin. I'll be very, very.
These are our enemies, folks. These are our enemies. I don't know if there's much more you need to say about that. So here's another one. This one's very fascinating for a similar reason, but kind of in a different direction. One of the most amazing clips ever. CNN host asks Eric Holder, former attorney general under Obama, what would happen if Trump gets reelected and he chooses a corrupt attorney general? Can you imagine what might happen? Let's listen.
Describe a little bit in terms of the role of and how it would transform if an attorney general, we're not looking at things purely from the facts, purely from the evidentiary burden and how to meet it, but instead taking directives on who to prosecute from the President of the United States.
Sure.
Whoa, can you imagine that? Can you imagine a situation where the attorney general is not just, there's an objective arbiter. The attorney general is actually politically motivated. He's not just looking at the facts of the evidence and trying to establish the evidentiary burden of proof. Can you imagine that? What would that be like? Let's see.
The president told a compliant attorney general, I don't like what this congressman said about me or did about me, did to me over the course of the last 2-3 years, whatever. Open an investigation on that person. That attorney general could tell a compliant United States attorney to do just that.
Huh. Really? So you're telling me the president could tell the attorney general, I don't like this guy. I don't like what he did. I don't like what he's doing. I don't like what he's trying to do. Go find something to stick him with. Imagine. And if a president told the attorney general that, then the attorney general could go find a compliant U.S. attorney and delegate that to him. And he would actually, that's what you're telling me? Wow, this sounds like a guy who's speaking from experience.
Talk to a compliant FBI director who could be replaced by the president to open an investigation and then to just look.
Look at her. She's like, huh, wow, that's fascinating.
Through that person's life and look for anything that you possibly can find. Who's to say what you find in any person's life that might run afoul of the law, and even beyond that, the mere fact of an investigation of a person who is a public figure can be reputation ruining.
Wow, really? So the mere fact of the investigation existing can be reputation ruining. So the system as it exists right now, it's entirely possible to have a president who decides he doesn't like a particular person, and he can task his attorney general with going after that person and finding something. Like, who knows? You could do so many different things. You could just pick up anything out of his life. Who knows? Once you start going through someone's life with a fine-tooth comb, like, yeah, I mean, you can come up with just about anything. Especially if you've got a compliant FBI director, an FBI director that you put in place who is, shares your views and actually wants to work cooperatively. You can actually do this. This is how the system is set up. Imagine that. Wow. And then once you actually get this investigation underway and you publicize it, you can actually destroy someone's reputation that way? Huh. I was told that this isn't possible. I was told there's no way that something like this could ever happen. Our institutions prevent this. Our institutions prevent rank corruption and perversion of the political process through all of our elected officials. That would never happen. I'm pretty sure that Eric Holder himself has told me that. 2-Bit Podcast says, I now judge men based on their mustaches. His is weak. His is weak. His is like an attempt at a mustache. It's all kind of scraggly and sort of like he worked on it for a really long time to get it grown out and then like trimmed it back just to make it kind of, you can tell there's not that much hair in here. That really it's just kind of like he's kept it just long enough to sort of cover his lip just by the sheer preponderance of hair. But it's not actually like hair density. There's not any that masculine vril in it.
Can be politically damaging, not even if you find anything, just the fact that the investigation itself exists. And if you've got the full weight of the Justice Department, the full weight of the presidency, the full weight of the FBI focusing on somebody like that, that can be extremely damaging to not only that person individually, but to our democracy writ large.
It can be damaging to our democracy writ large? Oh my God. Weaponizing the justice system to go after someone because of something you don't like is damaging to our democracy at large. Now you see the Chiron down here. The context of this is Hunter Biden. So the implication here, what he's insinuating, is if there was a politically motivated witch hunt going after Hunter Biden, directed by the president, telling a compliant attorney general to investigate him, and that attorney general going on and finding a compliant U.S. attorney and a compliant FBI director. With all this together, I mean, you could come up with anything, and it would be not just damaging to that individual person, it would actually be damaging to our entire system. I think he genuinely isn't computing in his head. These people are not malevolent, they're retarded. They become vessels for malevolence through their sheer retardation. He genuinely is not connecting these dots. You could tell, like in his body language and his tone of voice and everything. You could tell he's not like actually putting two and two together. Because when he did it, this was actually an exigent need. Like this has to happen now. This is my responsibility as Attorney General to ensure that this person is clearly criminally corrupt and he's going to destroy everything we've built. If he shows up, if he gets any power, then all the worst things in the world are going to happen. These people genuinely believe this. They're genuinely bought into this entire worldview. They can't fathom a world outside of it. It's all they've grown up in. It's all they've lived in. These are not impressive, scheming, Machiavellian, they're very unimpressive, stupid people. The only thing that's standing in the way of them and their loss of power is the widespread recognition that they are stupid, unimpressive, incompetent people. They're breeding a competency crisis. They've been breeding a competency crisis, and they can't help but just open their mouths and tell on themselves constantly. It's like the one thing that they're best at. The one thing they do competently, do competently. The one thing they do competently is constantly tell on themselves. And the cynics, the hopeless nihilists will say, "Oh, this is them. They know what they're doing, and they're reveling in it. They're trying to demoralize all of us." No, you're trying to demoralize all of us. These are stupid people. Stop inflating them into something that they're not. They're not impressive. The only thing that is impressive about them is their sheer number. The sheer extent to which they've been completely indoctrinated into this system and believe in it wholeheartedly. Eric Winter says, nice to see Kingpilled using voice modification to hide from the CIA. Yeah, what you don't know is that my real voice sounds like this. But I got the voice modulator down here, and I just flip a little switch, and right away I go right back to this masculine, syrupy, rich voice, gracing your ears. Manliness. I love technology. All right. So here's another one. Now this one's very interesting. This is probably a frame breaker for a lot of people. It's definitely a frame breaker for the woman who is the subject of this video. But you gotta sit through the entire thing. It's probably going to be a little hard. You might have to turn down the volume a little bit. A lot of screeching, but you got to sit through it because the kicker is right at the end. Let's see here. All right. The moment a Zionist realizes that Jews can be against the genocide in Gaza. So you've got this woman here. I guess I don't have to describe it because everyone who's going to watch this is watching it. So you got this woman here, and listen to what she has to say. Her entire world is collapsing around her.
Israel! Our people come from Israel! You have come from your people!
Zionism is a political movement which is causing bloodshed.
That's where our family is from. I'm from Israel. How did you hold that flag?
This is because the actions of the Zionist people, they are responsible.
What are you talking about? That's our ancestors!
We lived in a beautiful
What
peace.
flag is that? How can you say that? You're a Jew!
We lived in a beautiful peace with Palestinian people for hundreds of years.
How can you say that? You're not a Jew! You're not a...
He says, we lived in a beautiful peace with Palestinian people for hundreds of years before Zionism came in. This is the Jewiest looking Jew that you could ever imagine. He is like a meme of Jewry.
How dare you!
When Zionism came in, they caused their bloodshed. They caused rivers of bloodshed.
How can you say that you're Jewish?
She is not processing a single thing he's saying. All that she can comprehend is that there's a Jew in front of her waving a Palestinian flag, and it is breaking her brain. How could you? You're a Jew! How could you? This is the new Greta Thunberg. Instead of how dare you, it's how could you?
How can you shame your own people?
Who is that Jew?
We're all Jews here.
He was against Judaism.
We're all Jews here. Yeah, so how are they saying that?
Look at her face right here. Look at that. Someone make this, like, this needs to be a meme right here. This is like the lib encountering reality outside of the one that she's existed in. Encountering actual reality. This is the face she makes. These are our enemies.
He was against Judaism. We're all Jews here.
Yeah, so how are they saying that?
Because they believe in God. Jewish, I'm standing it. I don't want that.
That's our country. That is our country. How dare you say that about our own people?
I love this guy up here. Shame, shame! I wonder how many of these guys here are like, I would totally buy that this is like a Sam Hyde guy in a costume. That would be fantastic. Shame, shame! There are people commenting here about her looking Aryan. Yeah, I mean, she looks looks exactly like a Scandinavian. I'm sure if you like did genetic testing, she's overwhelmingly Scandinavian, I'm sure. This is maybe we'll touch more on this in the future. I don't know. Depends on how much we want to keep the channel around. But there's something to be learned from that. I'll just say that for now. Okay, we got another 35 seconds or 25 seconds here. You guys are going to get the kicker here in a second.
What is wrong with them? How are you guys like this? Genocide. This is not what Jews This is not the truth. This is not what Jews stands for. Shame, shame, Israel. Shame on Israel.
There you go. This whole time, this chick is standing in this crowd of people yelling and screaming at them, trying to grab the dude's phone away, trying to instigate an altercation. She's literally standing here with a toddler in a stroller. This is the absolute epitome of the modern woman. Standing in a crowd of people, shrieking at them, "How could you?" Trying to pick a fight, oblivious to the fact that she's putting her child in direct danger. She's lucky that the people she was talking to were not there to get into a fight. Maybe she sensed that. I don't know. She's got that woman's intuition. Maybe she knew that they weren't going to actually bite, and she's just flailing emotionally at them. But oh my God, I was actually kind of inclined to feel bad for her a little bit. I still have a twinge of empathy. Her entire world is fracturing around her. It's not her fault that she's been conditioned to believe what she has. She's been lied to. She's been convinced by the most important men in her life that that the reality she lives in is true and that people like this can't exist. It's a very, very flat, two-dimensional reality. She doesn't have men around her. She has a bunch of guys who never launched themselves off of a bike ramp and crashed and burned. She's got a bunch of flabby, urban, skinny fat twinks. She has no idea how to be a woman. Her entire world is collapsing around her. She's losing all of her feminine instincts. All the beautiful things that make her a woman. The instinct to protect your child. Not make a fucking dramatic scene screaming at people and trying to take a swing at them right in front of your kid. If that's even her kid. I don't know if that would make it even worse. If it's someone else's kid. She's like a nanny who's out walking someone else's kid. And she sees this crowd of people and she can't stand for them to exist. They have to be exterminated. Get them away. They can't just be off in their own place. They have to be absolutely wiped from the earth. This sort of, the existence of something that breaks my frame, it cannot be. It's a direct war against being. Imagine if she dumped her kid reaching for a phone. Yeah. She's fortunate that the makeup of this crowd was not particularly given over to urban antics. Or that kid would have gotten fucked up. And that is fucked up. These women need to be rescued. I was talking on the show yesterday about grenades. There needs to be men who will fall on this grenade. That's the only way that you're going to get women put back in their proper place, is if men are willing to sacrifice themselves and fall on that grenade. That's a tough truth. I know a lot of guys don't like to hear that. But this is literally, this is the only way that this can happen. The only way that we can recover and rebuild any type of civilization is if the men take control of the women. And the way you take control of the women is by falling on the grenades. Eric Winter says, I got my grenades, so someone else in the chat will have to step up. My legs are gone. Shout out to you, Eric Winters. Good for you, man. So this actually segues very nicely into the next story here, which is actually a video. So this is a video. I encourage you guys to go listen to this entire interview. This is fantastic. We're going to listen to actually a pretty healthy chunk of it here, because this is two of the smartest guys I know digging into one of the most interesting topics I've heard about, and doing it in a really insightful way. And I want to capture their comments on this part of the subject. So this is 2-Bit Podcast with good friend of the show, Kruptos, from 2-Bit's episode, How Women Canceled Latin. How's that for a title? How Women Canceled Latin. So they're talking about, if I remember the context just before this, because it kind of just drops in the middle of the conversation, they're talking about the part of the process of the feminization of society, how that's happened, and in part due to the managerializing of everything and the elimination of men having their spaces where they act as men and they do men things together. Men have their sacred wisdom traditions that they pass on to each other. And there's particular ways that happens. And this is the subversion that the liberal project, the multi-century liberal project, one of the main things that they subverted was the existence of these male-only organizations. These trade organizations, guilds, the way that education functioned, where education was less about just being the kid's friend and more about actually training them in these wisdom traditions. This is the context as they're coming into this point. So let's speed this up just a little bit so we can get through it. Actually, got to slow it down. I was listening on 2x. So here we go.
Education becomes much more feminized, and I feel like this is sort of leads us into your end point of the article, where this feminization of the education space is also part of the reason why we're at where we're at. And so just to caveat this, because like a lot of times people think like, how do we fix Western civilization? And I'm like, look, it's not about fixing, because people accuse me of trying to fix things. I'm like, I'm not trying to fix anything. I'm trying to break frames so that people can understand it, and then you can make whatever moves you want. I'm not telling you what to do or even how to do it. I'm simply saying that if you're going to do a thing, then you might as well be fully aware of what you're trying to do. And if you're really hell-bent on reclaiming masculine spaces, understand the enormity of what you're talking about. Because what I think a lot of people do is they get into this magical thinking of somebody saying like, we're going to fix the West. I'm like, okay, genius. How are we going to fix the West? We're going to do, X, we're going to reclaim this and take over the institutions. And I'm like, okay, that all sounds good, but how? Do you understand how much rot and where all these tendrils lie? Because I don't think you do. And when you start to examine it, it's not just that you can be selective with this. You're going to have to apply it across the board. And to apply across the board means things like, okay, well, let's look at education. Let's deep dive into this and figure out if you're going to do this, what your education system will have to look like in a based world.
That's right.
Okay, so real quick, I want to respond to Requited here. Said, I think the better option is to pick a bit better woman and have them police the rest. Also promote those who already try to police other women. I do agree. I do think that's true. Like, ultimately, women are going to police women. So the woman who is married to a good man is going to take that man, the order that man is seeking to establish in the world, and she's going to become a proxy for that. Women ultimately have to police women, but those women who are policing the women have to be policed by men. And if you have the bit better woman policing the worse woman, then those worse women are still going to need their own men to police them as well. So there was a time when a man was going to be satisfied or happy with whatever woman he could get. He might live in a town where he only ever sees the women who are in that town. Those are the only options for him ever. So he's got a sample size of, 100 women. And those are the only ones. Those are the only ones that are available to him and 99 other guys. So you're going to wind up with the woman you wind up with, and it's your responsibility to treat her as your wife with all that entails. You have to take responsibility for her, and you serve as the ultimate foundation, consequence, backdrop for her. And each man is going to have to do this. But now we've got this world now where we've got all these guys who are they're becoming hypergamous. They're starting to have this hypergamous behavior where they're like, no, I'm not going to settle for the busted one. I don't want a mid chick. I gotta have the banging supermodel. All my internet algorithms show me all these hot, like 3% body fat chicks hanging their tits out. That's the woman I want. This is gay. It's not the behavior of a man. It's the behavior of a gooner. It's the porn brain speaking. That's not a healthy woman. That woman's got just as much baggage, probably even more, than the frumpy busted chick that you don't want to pay attention to. You're just trading one set of problems for another. Guys are romantic. What is it? What is the saying from Charles Spadil that men are romantic, masquerading as pragmatic, and women are pragmatic, masquerading as romantic? And actually, they get in a conversation about romance here. We'll get to that in just a minute. But part of being romantic as a man is not seeing a woman for what she is right now, but seeing her for what she could become, what you could make her. And then you get to see the difference between what she was when you found her and what she is now. Now, also, those 3% body fat chicks that are on the internet hanging their tits out, what do they run through? Those are grenades in themselves. And someone's going to need to fall on those. And that's not all it's cracked up to be. Might even be more of a pain in the ass. That's going to take its own brand of special guy to fall on those grenades. But ultimately, if you want to talk about Western civilization and extended families and combating the longhouse and all this fucking theory cell shit, then you've got to start seeing yourself as a member of this civilization who is willing to sacrifice for that civilization. It can't just be, I'll have civilization, but only on my own terms. I want civilization, but as long as I get my hot bride. I want civilization as long as it looks the way I want it. You're a lib. This is lib shit. Stop being libs. If you're a young man thinking like this, you're deluding yourself. You don't actually mourn the loss of Western civilization. You're just grumpy that you're not getting what you want, and you're figuring out someone you can pin it on and feel validated in doing so. You're acting like a woman.
Right. Well, and you get things like, wow, we have to get women out of politics. And so, well, that's good. Then you have to deindustrialize.
Right.
And then people look at you like, no, because then you can bring it back and explain how industrialization destroyed the household and took all of women's meaningful work from them. This also with education is one of those things where we have to understand that basically, if you want to remasculinize society, you pretty much have to get rid of modernity. And that really, the process of it begins with the printing press. And so you move from a society in which
if you want to masculinize society, you have to get rid of modernity. That's a banger right there. That's a writer downer. And you got a lot of these young guys who are like, yeah, get rid of modernity. But what happens when getting rid of modernity means getting rid of all of your own little foibles that you like? If getting rid of modernity means getting rid of, I don't know, universal access to porn, are you in favor of getting rid of modernity? If getting rid of modernity means you have to, quote unquote, settle for a woman that you wouldn't have chosen yourself. If it means someone else is going to arrange your marriage for you, you're going to get married to the woman you're told to marry. Do you still want to get rid of modernity? Everyone wants to get rid of all the bad things they hate about modernity, but nobody wants to get rid of the good things. Oh, no, that's the part where modernity benefits me, so don't get rid of that, just get rid of everything else. Well, yeah. Well, if everyone does that, then modernity's not going anywhere. Now, of course, modernity is going somewhere, inevitably, because this is the cycle of history. The real question is, who's going to define what post-modernity and post-postmodernity looks like? And it's going to be the people who see it coming and adjust for it and position themselves to hold power within whatever comes next.
Writing is there, but not ubiquitous, to a period where writing very, very quickly in print, where print becomes nearly ubiquitous. And it doesn't happen overnight. Like it takes several hundred years, but the Reformation doesn't happen, 150 years later without the printing press. And then the scientific revolution doesn't happen without the printing press. Industrialization and the rise of the merchant classes doesn't happen without the printing press. And one of the things that happens with the printing press is that you take language that was held in memory, that was primarily oral, and then you put it on a printed page, and then it's in a book and it's on a shelf. So now what's happening, and if you remember, we go back to the early thing, we talked about the nature of a woman is interior, closely held knowledge, in a sense, the idea of the quiet, a woman's power is in her silence and her virginity, that sense, that quietness, you know what I mean?
Taylor Brown says, I understand criticisms of modernity, but deindustrializing, guess you better be hoping for a sun flare or an EMP to take up mass machinery and technology. Don't see how you can get that genie back in the bottle. What he's pointing out here and what he's starting to break down, if you listen as he continues going through here, what he's breaking down is how the industrialization process was part of the feminization of society, which is what led to modernity. Modernity is the outworking of the feminization of society through industrialization, because of what industrialization did to women. It was born out of women, mediated through men, and I mean, it happened, so we can't say it was a bad thing, because everything that happens ultimately works out for good. We're in the process of experiencing that, and there's good things that came from it, but there's also the bad things that come from it, and you can recognize this by tracing the process of how this happens, which is what Kryptos is breaking down.
That was held in memory, that was primarily oral, and then you put it on a printed page, and then it's in a book and it's on a shelf. So now what's happening, and if you remember, we go back to the early thing, we talked about the nature of a woman is interior, closely held knowledge, in a sense, the idea of the quiet, a woman's power is in her silence and her virginity, that sense, like quietness, you know what I mean? That's, I think, an old Japanese saying, like the power of a woman is in her quietness, something like that. Ong notes it in the book. But so there's this sense that a female's power is symbolized in the virgin, in a sense of containing that purity in that internalness, whereas as a man, and that's that symbol of men, is that symbol of Mars, the spear directed outward, right, the arrow. And so man is outward, he's combative, he's claiming space, he's pushing boundaries. And when you switch then from an oral, that combative form of language, interactive, to a printed place, it becomes interior. So now you're doing silent reading. You take the words around in the book with you. It becomes abstracted. It's no longer, the words don't have to be a part of you. And so what gradually happens is then the words become psychologized. So because the words become printed, you now have this reflection on your interior space. And
okay, he's getting going now here, but I want to address some of the stuff you guys are talking about. So 2-Bit Podcast says, we're not against anything. We're laying out how complicated this magical thinking BS is. Repealing the 14th isn't going to fix the things you think about. I think he means repealing the 19th. But he's a Canadian living in Australia, so we can't be too hard on him. Right. This isn't as simple as just, repeal the 19th, get women out of politics, and everything is magically fixed. These are just like these little political movements that sprout up that are right-wing and based. When they're operating this way, we just got to go to war with the 19th Amendment and get rid of it, and everything goes back to normal. This is variants of the fundamental libertarian presupposition. Like the libertarian is kind of like the most, in a sense, is almost the most honest. It's just like, the state, get rid of the state, get rid of government altogether. All you got to do is just magically make it go away, and everything is fixed. And for a lot of us who are post-libertarian or never had to make that journey in the first place, we see the silliness, the foolishness of that. Like, you can't just go to war with government. In the same way, you can't just go to war with the 19th Amendment. You can't just go to war with Zionist control of the government. Because these things arose for a reason. There was a process that led to their arrival on the scene. So just like picking that fruit doesn't make the tree go away. Each of these things is a fruit that's a product of this long subversive process. So just going after the fruit and trying to pick it, like the fruit's going to grow faster than you can pick it. Doesn't matter how many people you get picking it, because that act of trying to pick that fruit is itself a fruit of the same process. This is the liberalism as politicized resentment. When your political motivations are entirely focused negatively, we have to get rid of this. We have to eliminate that. We have to abolish that. We have to destroy that. If your political motivations are just like wipe the table clean of XYZ thing, but you're not taking into consideration what brought that thing there in the first place, you actually become trapped in a dialectic process with that thing. There's now a dialectic tension where you are controlled and dictated by that thing. You've become enslaved to the thing that you're at war with. And this is like the magic, the evil magic of liberalism as a philosophy, as a mindset, as a paradigm, is that it's like a tractor beam that sucks you into embedding yourself in dialectic warfare with whatever thing you resent. You can resent whatever you want. That's the magic of it. You can resent a left-wing thing or you can resent a right-wing thing. In either case, you're going to be advancing this liberal process. And the only way to break out of that is to instead build, create, generate a new thing. You don't have to go to war with the old thing. If you generate a good enough new thing, the old thing will die. This is the role of a man, to be perpetually mastering this process of generating and producing better and better new things. As you build better and better new things, the arc of history will bend toward the adoption and the integration of those new things, which will naturally, in a zero-sum way, eliminate those bad things. Now, I'm not utopian enough to think, oh, well, we're going to magically get to where, it's like two lines on a graph and they're just going to completely substitute each other. This is the human process. This is an eternal cycle. For as long as the world exists, we're going to be engaged in this process. And it's the engagement in that process that refines and hones your own character. This is how you participate in the life of Christ. Because Christ, the Logos, is a creator. He is the creator God. So to be in his image and likeness is to create. Not to destroy, not to tear down, not to deconstruct. That's the illusion. That's the thing that lures you away off the narrow path. You think it's a shortcut. If we just destroy this thing, the bad things will all go away. I don't care what your bad thing is that you're trying to get rid of. Simply trying to destroy something is just creating a vacuum for an even worse, more subversive thing to step into its place. There was something else I was going to say, but I can't remember what it was. So we'll see if it comes back as we keep listening here. I'm going to back up just a little bit.
Purity in that internalness, whereas as a man, and that's that symbol of men is that symbol of Mars, the spear directed outward, right? The arrow. And so man is outward, he's combative.
So that was what I was going to say. So he's talking about how initially when you're operating through oral tradition, this is the change that the printing press made. Instead of operating through oral tradition, which is necessarily outward, it's projecting. Like masculinity as electricity, it's the thing that like fragments out, that expands the boundaries, expands the horizons. It's actually embodied in the physical process of speaking. You're projecting outward. But then the printing press allows that process to now be directed inward. And so now the transmission and communication of knowledge becomes a more feminized process, where it's being internalized. Rather than externalized wisdom, it becomes internalized wisdom. And so it naturally follows on from there that you get the Reformation, which is, well, your relationship to Christ and the church is a matter of internal processes. You sitting with your Bible, personally reading your Bible. There isn't an outward component to it. Those gradually get frittered away to where it becomes entirely atomized into the human skull. This is a feminization process. Femininity is conserving, restricting, withdrawing, sucking. Masculinity is externalizing, projecting, forcing outward, shooting, spewing. These are the archetypes that identify masculinity versus femininity. Masculinity as electricity, femininity as a magnetism. A field versus waves, the waves on the field.
He's claiming space, he's pushing boundaries. And when you switch then from an oral, that combative form of language, interactive, to a printed praise, it becomes interior. So now you're doing silent reading. You take the words around in the book with you. It becomes abstracted. It's no longer, the words don't have to be a part of you. And so what gradually happens is then the words become psychologized. So because the words become printed, you now have this reflection on your interior space. And so now you have stories developed by where you look at the interior life of the characters, and that's largely comes about because of the printing press. And so then you get the female author. right, who then writes the novel. And the novel is really a form of writing that comes about because of the printing press. And so what happens is that there's this gradual de-emphasis on combat and more emphasis on interior spaces and abstraction, and the material is no longer a part of you. So what happens over time is then you're not, when you do a debate, or like in printed press, it becomes more irenic because it's not personal. It's being mediated through this idea of the printed word. And so no longer are your disagreements in the battle ring. They're much more civilized. They become more feminized, and more peaceable, and so forth. And this then, it also emphasizes some of the qualities that are inherent in the merchant classes, because you need more cooperation. The whole idea of the contract and the agreement, and we're business partners, and we're competitors, but we're also in a cooperative relationship. Right? So it's the idea of the contract. So there all these ideas come up. And
2-Bit Podcast says, just to be clear, we are not against books. Right. Again, we're laying out the landscape. We're seeking to accurately understand what it is that we're seeing. See, the thing about femininity and masculinity is it's not that women are exclusively governed and participating in femininity, and men are exclusively governed and participating in masculinity. Actually, a person is a balance of the two. It's the two in proper relationship to one another, because there is a time for men to be feminine. For example, my relationship to my priest is a feminine relationship. I'm submissive to him. I receive from him. In the same way, my wife is submissive to me and she receives from me. So my wife is feminine to me and I'm feminine to my priest. My priest is masculine to me and I'm masculine to my wife. My wife, in turn, is masculine to my son. He receives from her. He is governed by and directed by her. She establishes boundaries. And those boundaries are reinforced and established within my purview. And then the boundaries on me are reinforced and established within my priest's purview. So it's not like, oh, men have to do all the masculine stuff and women do all the feminine stuff. No, there has to be a balance between them. We each participate in these masculine and feminine spirits, but they have to be in their right order. So having books is not a bad thing. The consumption of the individual personal consumption of a book versus the exposition of oral wisdom, conveying wisdom orally versus conveying wisdom textually, is one is feminine and one is masculine. That doesn't mean one is bad and one is good. It means that they each have their proper place, and we need to understand this to understand the effects that they're going to have so that we can maintain this proper balance.
And the spaces become more interior, they become more irenic, and then as industrialization then breaks down the family household and women begin entering the schools, now all of a sudden, this idea of teaching Latin becomes hard, because women, when they see what men have to go through or boys have to go through to learn Latin, they don't want to look at it. Right? So very quickly Latin turns by the wayside. But also, as you have this printed form and this rise of the merchant classes, you also then knowledge shifts from being this ornamental, as we were talking about with debating, because you're debating over the same loci, the same material over and over again, but you're doing it in a way that demonstrates expertise and quality and arete excellence in your handling of the material. Well, now that it's on the printed page, it's abstract. You don't have to memorize it. It's separate from you. It is no longer about it just simply becomes about the material itself. And so you don't have to, because you don't have to emphasize the peacocking aspect of it. Knowledge becomes much more utilitarian. So the question is not whether it's beautiful or excellent or the presentation of it, but is this efficient? So how does this help me get a job? Becomes a much bigger, is this going to help me in my workplace? Is this going to help me in my career? Is this going to further my career? These types of concerns become much more prevalent. And learning Latin and entering a boys' word and these whole ideas of the markers of turning men into boys begin to diminish and to gradually disappear as the world becomes increasingly more interior, more psychologized, and as a result, it takes on more feminine characteristics as it goes forward. And then, because women like to use indirect power. So you've taken your knowledge and you've made it indirect by putting it in the book on the shelf. So all knowledge becomes indirect, it becomes abstract, and then you're in the process of industrialization. You're building all of these abstract edifices outside of yourself, all the machines, the techniques, the ways of doing business, and you have these power forms that are vested in the because now you can write down, you can keep policy manuals, you can print them off, and so you have these external forms of authority and power, and these are much more suited to the feminine personality because they like indirect power, they like to use authority, like especially the authority of a men as a weapon against other men, but within a system contained by rules and regulations, right? So there's all of these aspects that gradually feminize, and then you have then indirect forms of competition. So we nowadays, looking back from where we are today, we look back from an era of diversity, equity, inclusion back to quote unquote the meritocracy. And we see the meritocracy as very masculine, well, it's competitive because you've got IQ tests, you've got all these other types of markers for entrance exams and so forth. Then you just basically do the entrance exam, whoever wins gets in. But what people don't see is that those entrance exams are functionally the same thing as a DEI exam because they were used basically to break down the old power of the aristocracy, which was invested in persons and personal skill, personal ability, and so forth. And people said, well, I've got as much ability as that noble. Well, how do I prove it? Well, I take an external test that evaluates us both objectively. And now I can use this objective measurement to say I'm just as good as the nobleman and I deserve my place in Harvard, right? So now then once you enter.
So one thing, I think this is such a profound observation. It's so good. Oh yeah, Two-Bit says this is a banger point. So the systemization, the objectifying of this process is feminizing. Again, women are conservative. Women want to bring things in. Women don't want lots of variables. Women want everything to be predictable and organized and comfortable. You want to have this understanding of objectivity and equality and balance. These are all the things the woman is looking for. The subjective world is the world for the men. There's kind of a paradox in this. We're going to talk about more about paradoxes in a little bit. But the systemization, this depersonalizing effect is a function of femininity that has to be balanced and contained by the personalizing effect of men. God is a man. The definition of personhood is a man. We know him as a man because our relationship to him is as if we were feminine and he is masculine. We are submissive to him through his proxies. That's the way that he chooses to reveal himself to us and has created us to exist within those relationships. So Kryptos is describing this brilliantly, how you start off with, there's like the personal knowledge of I know this guy knows what I've done, my accomplishments, my wisdom, my expertise. This is the way decisions are made. This is the way the power structures are established. But you get a woman involved in that, and she's like, no. We need to eliminate these variables. We need to eliminate the subjectivity in it all. We can't just depend on people and trust people. This would be a biological instinct for a woman. I'm the smaller and weaker. I can't just trust what I don't know. It needs to be made apparent to me. It needs to be drawn out and be completely evident and clear to everybody. That's a feminization process. This revelatory process is mediated by women. And the men are the ones who are enforcing the subjectivity because the men can navigate that world and are called to navigate that world. We have to navigate that world. And paradoxically, we have to navigate that world so that the women can follow behind us and objectify that which is subjective mediated through masculinity. So then when a man is objectifying a woman, he's actually acting as a woman toward that woman. Women are seeking objectification, but a man can't engage with her as if she's an object. Paradoxes. We need to have a paradox emote in the chat.
And this idea of diversity, equity, inclusion is just downstream from that idea. It's just turned to a different objective. And so you already have this whole process there. But what people don't realize is that all of these instruments of what we would call the meritocracy are already feminized forms of doing things that were used to break down the old forms that existed, of orality that existed prior to the printing press. So you have all of these effects, and Ong ties them into, from a consciousness perspective, to the introduction of the printing press changes the way that we think and the way that we approach knowledge. And as a result of changing the way that we approach knowledge, we change our interactions, our consciousness, and as a result, we embracing more feminine forms. And then alongside of that, we then create a social plasticity where through industrialization, the previous roles of women are broken down and they enter into what was previously a masculine world, but they're doing so in a world that has already been pre-feminized for them by the use of book learning.
Here's
so
an
that makes
interesting.
sense.
Here's an interesting side quest. Well, a related side quest. And Matthew Erickson from Kingpilled and I have talked about this. I think he was the one who brought this up, or anyways, I know that's where my introduction to the idea was through him. Is that men are inherently romantic, and the masculine is inherently romantic, and the feminine is inherently pragmatic. So this talks a lot to what you're saying, and I think you and Matt should get together and talk about this, because I think that I would like to hear you two extrapolate on that. But even what you're saying here is that the feminine pragmaticism, women love romance because it's inherently masculine. Women are developed and geared to love what is inherently masculine, and romance and the romantic urge, to set an ideal and become an ideal, is inherently romantic. Heroism is inherently romantic because it's lofty. It's a trying to model yourself after something that you may never truly attain, but you can try to get as close to it as possible.
It's that poetic flourish that we were talking about.
Exactly. And women, it's not that women lack the ability to be romantic at all, but that's not their natural domain. Their natural domain is to be hyper pragmatic. That's a good thing, but you need to have both things operating at the same time. Women, and Matt again has talked a lot about this, is that the idea of Eve being I believe the term is a meat help or something along those lines. Like, it's
help meet, help meet.
It's literally that women are here to almost give men shit tests, where they're testing us to see, okay, so you come up with this romantic ideal and this idea, that's great. How are you going to do it? Like, what are the steps? Even what I was saying before, it's almost introducing that feminine pragmatism into the mix. And I think this is just kind of also Eastern European to a certain degree. It's like, okay, I hear you, but how are you actually going to do this? Like, what is steps? And testing men constantly to see if they are up to whatever task, either that's in front of them or potential. And as we become much more, society has become much more feminized, we've lost those romantic urges. You can see it now in art, where people are like, why can't we make these movies that we could make even 20 years ago? I saw a post recently bemoaning how the original Lord of the Rings movies couldn't be made today. Like, there was connections being made in those characters that people automatically felt akin to, like, when Gandalf meets Frodo, and people have that warm moment and people connect to it. And no modern movie is doing that anymore, or they have real difficulties in doing it. It's like, yeah, that's romance. Like, that's inherently romantic. It's not sexual. Everyone wants to make it, oh, they're gay. It's like, no. Like, that's the romantic spirit of men bonding and having that sort of brotherhood. Like, the difference between friend and brother. It's not just a word we use. There's a clear distinction in relationship. Kinship itself, to be kind, needs to treat someone else as if they are family. Like, these are all romantic sort of urges that, again, don't make a whole lot of sense, aren't necessarily pragmatic in a nuts and bolts society, but you need those flourishes in order for people to actually want to be part of something. Or else you get this sort of social nihilism where everything is facts and figures, and everything, again, gray boxes, because why not? That it's functional and it costs less. It's injecting that feminine pragmatism into the masculine. And when the masculine is not honed and directed in certain ways, it will go too far. It will take a thing and go, okay, we'll maximize it, right? You always, that's a term now on socials, like, how can you max out your workout and stuff like that? Take it to the extreme. And part of, I think, what we're saying here is that education, Latin, all these little rituals that inform the reality of people are in many ways a way to temper men, to direct masculinity into being a man. I believe we said this on the last show, but I always feel really bad. I feel bad for anyone who thinks they're transgender in general. I honestly have a lot of sympathy for them, but I feel the worst for the women to men transitions, because what they do not understand, and what no man can or will articulate, is that just being masculine, just being like, acting a man, does not make you a man. And that's true for biological men. Like, we all know those men who are like, I use the term moist, like sort of sticky, like you're looking at them like you have a weak handshake. You're and it's not just because they're feminine. It's more like,
Cooper, we were talking about Mitt Romney this morning, and I was trying to describe how he affects me, and that's what it is. He's a moist man. Mitt Romney is a moist man. You could just tell that, like his hands are probably like cold and clammy, and he's kind of like a little, Yeah, he just gives me the willies. Yeah, we had a woman spazzing out in the chat, and I had to take care of that. One of the things I want to point out from this is we played this video of this chick earlier who's freaking the fuck out, and people are saying audio issues. Can you guys hear me? I'm not playing the clip anymore. I'm just talking. I don't think that my mic is on. I think everything is okay. Waiting for you guys to catch up and see. Westford says it was my earbuds messing up. Never mind. Okay. All right. Audio's fine. Okay, good. So like a woman's role is to make a man be the mediating force that catalyzes a man into a greater man. And the way she does this is by trying to contain him, by trying to ground him and pull him down to the ground, put him in a box. And paradoxically, the masculine role is the creating the boxes and the borders. So the man ultimately gives her the box that she tries to put him in. But if he allows himself to be put into that box, then he is no longer being a man to her. So this is the tension between, you have a tension between electricity and magnetism, where like if the electrical charge begins to withdraw back toward the center, the magnetic field will pull with it. It tries to keep away from it. But then as the charge extends out, the magnetic field will follow it. This is the tension that exists between men and women. So the woman is trying to pull him down, trying to contain him, trying to put him in a box, while he's pulling her up. The woman is grounding the man into the earth, Mother Earth. Well, the man is pulling her up into heaven. And both of these are good and both of these are necessary, and they have to maintain this balance. The balance has to be led by the man, motivated by the woman, and the woman is ultimately guided and supported and bolstered by the man, which actually it's interesting. It kind of creates this circular, you could almost think of this in like infinite terms. Like you get this infinity symbol. Maybe that's something. There's a little scientific stuff to that I've been watching lately that we might get back into later on. Not in today's episode, but I'm going to drop real quick. I think there's a little bit more of this I want to listen to, but I'm going to pull 2-Bit Podcast on here. Jason, I am DMing you the link to join the stream. I'm going to pull him on here to account for himself, to speak for himself, and elaborate on some of these ideas. While we're waiting for him to hop on, I'm going to keep playing a little bit more.
You're not strong the ways. Yeah, you haven't steel temper steel. Like you're just weak in certain areas. You're untrustworthy. You annoy me. You're a creature now. And people react to that, both men and women.
What I'm buzzing. I think you would probably enjoy it. You hate to pitch another podcast on your show, but Jay Burden's recent interview of Athenian Stranger on friendship, I think you would really enjoy that. So have a listen to that one. I think
Jay Burden's a friend of the show. So
yeah, and his interview with Athenian was awesome on this subject of friendship, and he was going through some of the same things as you are. But I'm thinking also two thoughts. One is as you lose these peacocking, the ornamentation in speech and action, and the contained rituals of male combat that both contain the aggression and give it an outlet. If you take all of that way and everything is pure utilitarian, then what do you have left, right? Like as you're saying, it's like how much can you lift, or every experience has to be extreme because no ordinary experience can express the excellence that you want to give. So it has to be extreme sports, extreme, you know what I mean? Everything has to be extreme, and we go on. But the other marker is in a utilitarian society is then, how big can you build it? And how much money can you put in your bank account? And those become really your two markers, or how much, what are the markers? How many degrees do you have? How many books have you published? And so in a society where, hypergamy is still a thing, how do women evaluate who a good man is, right? Well, basically your bank account. And that's all that they've got. Or, for some they have, the car he drives or how much he lifts. But they're mostly looking at your bank account. But there used to be all of this range of characteristics, as you say, some of them romantic, something. But there was all of the unnecessary flourishes that went along with the life of excellence that a man exuded because he was telling stories, he was engaged in ritual combat. There was just all these male tasks that he could then excel at with excellence that then separated him and allowed him to show his qualities as a man and to prove himself. Now, there's also the recognition that in older societies, not every male mated either. These were one of those things. They often went off and died in wars, and sometimes they were accepted lesser positions in a household, and the ruling member had several wives. There was these types of things were also present as well. But to come back to sort of the Western society and how it changed, we have to remember too, the word economy, as you were talking about with women and practicality, economy literally means like household affairs, like the affairs of the household. So when
here's a just as I'm thinking this, here's a little side quest with it too, is that men love to negotiate because there's a combative nature in the negotiation. Women love the deal, so
they like to see the deal all done.
Right, and also they like to feel like they've gotten a deal. It explains Etsy. Like make a beautiful thing out of like household little things that cost nothing. That's a purely feminine domain. It feels weird being a man looking at Etsy. Sometimes you get some weird link. You're like, what is that? And you're on Etsy. You're like, ooh, I feel like I shouldn't be here.
You're gonna hand my man card in for just looking.
Right. There's way too much estrogen on my screen right now. I gotta back away.
Yeah, but not in a good way.
Right.
Yeah. So this whole notion of in the 1700s, especially in Northern Europe, England, you can see this also in the early Americas, where the basic social organization is the household, right? So it's either a small business, it's a craft shop, it's a farm, and for the most part, unless you were part of the gentry, the household was your basic operating society. And they were smaller, they were larger. Some of the more successful households would have servants and could have 20 or more people involved in the household. And a smaller household would be just simply the family, right? But the household provided a rich environment for the women, and they were at once teachers, they were clothiers, they did domestic work, but they also were nurses and doctors in many senses. And so but then they also ran the affairs of the household, of the behind the scenes stuff that in many ways made the business work, or the household work. And as that was broken down with industrialization, there was a lot of the activities. We talk about the rise of socialism, but once the household was broken down and the work that was being done there was being done cheaper in the factories, and the households could no longer compete. People had to, the man and the woman ended up having to go into the factories to work, and it left women who were at home with not much of a role, because the kids were then, with the end of child labor, kids were then put into schools where they're not educating, hospitals were built. So the state begins to take all of these roles that used to be taken up by the household. And so now you have women of prosperous businesses and women of prosperous craftsmen. So these women now need something to do. And they want it, so they start societies, and then they begin to angle for the vote. They begin looking and saying, we're just as smart as men, and they are. And so they go to universities and they enter the workforce. And just as this managerial world, you've discovered, like, oh wow, this world built on negotiation, the printing press, and abstraction is weirdly suited for women. The manager.
All right. So 2 thoughts real quick before we got Jason on the screen here now. Before you jump in, Jason, before I forget these thoughts. One, he was talking about the affectations and the ornamentation and like the accessories, the stuff that these used to be associated with men. Men were like the really flamboyant dressers and everything. And part of this is a demonstration of the excellence of the man. Like having this excess hints at the excellence of the man, that he's so excellent that he doesn't just have to make himself presentable. He can make himself presentable with a flourish. And the best example of this is the King's Crown. I got to give a shout out to Jonathan Pajot for this point. But the King's Crown, it's like this gaudy, ornate thing that encircles his head, that's heavy, that weighs upon him, that's a signal to everyone else that he is the first citizen. He is the one with whom the buck stops. And it's ornate with jewels and gold and which symbolizes the wealth that he is responsible for. And the fact that this is what sets him apart from the people is what obligates him to the people to care for and provide for. So that was what that little section made me think of. But he depicts very well how this process, this feminization process in society, which that process itself is not bad, that process has to be counterbalanced and managed by the masculine processes. So it's not as simple as, get rid of books or get rid of the 19th Amendment or get rid of contracts and get rid, no, we need those things, but you have to recognize the effect that those things have when you introduce them into a society while minimizing the man's influence on it. Jason, your thoughts?
If you want to be big, is this on, by the way?
Yeah, you're good.
If you want to be really based about it, you make sure that women can't wear pants. Because pants require belts, and belts are girdling. This is a semigog point. To be girdled, right? The crown is really a belt for one's head.
Mm-hmm.
To be girdled means that's where you carry your sword. This is a symbol of masculinity. It's also a symbol of lordship, of rulership, even in your own small household. To grow to put a circular border around your house, right, is to gird the house, to gird the garden. The garden surrounds the house, and the fence surrounds the garden, right? All these circles, you're girded within a region. This is the civilizational capital idea of regio, ruler, region, religion. When you have these things that bind and give borders, suddenly now you have something that your mind can work in. You need to almost have, you were talking about boxes before. In a functioning marriage, and this is something you only learn when you're deep into marriage, is that you don't stop being your persons. Both these persons are developing and growing and changing and maturing, but you do create this sort of inner border of the family. The family becomes a border. It becomes a definitive space, and you grow and you defend this border. This is why, like, simple things like not cheating. Don't cheat on your wife. It seems like a simple thing, right? Don't do it. Why? Well, you wouldn't like it if she did it to you. Okay, granted. It would hurt her feelings. Yeah, it would do all that. Threaten your marriage. True. One of the reasons you don't do it is that it's actually breaking the border.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're doing effectively when you or her, whoever cheats on somebody, you're not just breaking a vow, which is the ring. You're allowing this outside stuff in. It's like illegal immigration into your marriage.
Yes.
Okay. And so I think what's important with these conversations is that all of these things connect. This is the fractal. This is the dissonant fractal. And why I tend to rage against certain people sometimes selectively, because I'm spotty with social medias, but recently with the whole Fuentes yada thing that little thing you stepped in, and then even people we like and love are saying stupid shit, and it's like, look, man, I don't know why it is that I can talk to people who watch the show, I had a co-host who did this, right? Like, they all nod along. Yeah. You get it? Yeah, good. Okay. But so now here's brass tacks, right? Like, here's a moment where the rubber's hitting the road. Like, you got to get this. Like, this is where it gets important. And everyone's like spurgs out and like, so you weren't listening, or you agreeing with me, but you don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We can point out Zionism and the Jews and the this and the that and the feminisms and the liberalisms and the communisms, and we can point it all out, but it's not that. Like, here's a simple question: and then what? What do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Zionism, bad. I agree. Don't like them. Don't like it. Right? I'm with the Hasidics on this one. Right? Mashugada, get rid of it. Okay. Wave your magic wand. It's gone. Zionism gone in the West. We kicked them out 110 times. Whew, gone, right? Okay. And then what? What's the plan?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting real sick and tired, Matt, and I think you are too, of being the kind of people who we're constantly doing things. And like, what are we doing? We have a podcast, but there's lots of things we're not doing. Okay, put the shows aside. I'm getting sick and tired of being the guy who's doing stuff and trying to do stuff and trying to work things out and produce things and do things, and then have some people on the side going, well, yeah, but you talk to AA or you talk to Yarvin or this snipey bullshit. Like, it's not good enough. Oh, you didn't do that. I don't like that. Oh, you didn't say that. Fuck you. Right? Help out. Do something. All right. Tell you what, dude. You don't like me. You don't like what I'm doing. Cool. Awesome. You do it. you take out the Zionists. I said this on the show one time you were on. Like, I'm like, people don't understand this about me. I don't care. Like, I don't care about the things you care about. Most times I don't care about race. I don't care about a lot of culture shit. I don't. because what I'm looking at, and you've been saying on the show now, same thing as I've been saying, is like we build. Why? Because we build. That's what we do. And what's what we're going to do? I'm going to build churches. That's not, these are part of the overall plans. I'm just going to start doing these things. I'm not going to ask permission. I'm going to find out what I need to do the thing, and I'm going to do the thing, and then I'm going to do it. And fuck it. And the Jews are going to go. Okay, fine. They burn down the church. I'll build a new one. Like, it's so simple, and I don't know what people are missing. And occasionally I clue out and I come back into the social media world and I see this stuff and I'm like, you're still not getting it. And this is the thing with cryptos. People will hear this and go, you're against books. I'm like, no. What we're saying is, like, if you want to change education back to base world, understand what you have to sacrifice.
There are knock-on effects to all of these decisions. If you want to introduce books, okay, great. But you have to recognize what oral tradition provided. What were the facets of the existing system that produced certain outcomes, and what of those facets are going to be eliminated, and what are the consequences of that going to be? You need to have something ready to fill in those voids. This is what it is to build a civilization. Chesterton's fence. You don't tear down a fence until you know why it was built in the first place. And your thought about the girdle and the crown and all that. It's interesting that the word husband. I actually looked at the etymology and it doesn't work out this way, but you could just pretend it does. Your etymology is all fake and gay, anyways. So husband is like house band. You're the band around the house. That's your role. Your role is to be the band around the house. Likewise with society. If you're going to introduce a thing, if you're gonna wipe something off the table and bring something new, first of all, you have to have something new to bring. And you have to understand what are going to be the consequences of just eliminating this thing. Like, yeah, we agree that it's bad. Yes. We agree that it would be better to not have it. But it's kind of like with the libertarians, with the ANCAPs, when Pete Quinones had his living in Ancapistan in your head. I had the thought, well, if we lived in Ancapistan, what would I be doing? If I'm spending all of my time raging about how we should live in Ancapistan, well, what happened if we actually got to Ancapistan? I'd be out of a job. What would I do then? Well, maybe I should actually be doing that thing now. Like, say you had your society on the right track. Society was going the direction you wanted it to go. How would you be participating in that then? And by and large, as evidenced by their behavior, all these different variants of lib, like I'll give you guys an example of one here in a second, all these different variants of lib, their ethos is just fight against whatever is in front of me, no matter what it is, and give myself some complicated rationalization about why I'm justified in doing that. But if they suddenly got the society that they wanted, because they're fundamentally motivated by resentment and a desire for passivity and acquiescence, like people just give them stuff, then, and they don't actually have to like work or go accomplish anything or do anything themselves other than just destroy. This is what they would be doing if you gave them their ideal society. They'd find a different boogeyman to chase.
This is the problem with the pursuit of happiness. I've been saying this for a very long time now, and everyone I've been saying it, and people are giving me that look like when I tell them I hate beaches, right? Or I don't wear shorts. You're like, huh? I'm like, you think about it for a second. But so the moment that people are unhappy, they would think they're oppressed. Well, you can't be happy all the time, or you can be, but then you're either insane or you're a liar. So pick one. There's every Eastern European, everyone who's been raised in an Eastern European household gets some sort of version of this. And I've had this confirmed multiple times. So it's not just my family. But at some point, you're told not to smile too much. Because, and how it was described to me, is that if you smile too much, you're either stupid or you're lying. So don't smile so much, right? And it sounds really based, but it's true. Because if someone is like, and I think into the West, especially with America, is because service culture and all that stuff. Everyone's kind of designed to go, everyone's happy. Hi, how you doing? Like that person's fucked up, right?
Right. No one wants to be around them.
It's fine in certain, like in a service, and your waiter is happy, and even then I'd be like, why are you so happy? But But you know, like if you had to interact with someone on a like, imagine being there 24/7 with that person, you'd kill them. Like, what are you doing? I wouldn't last an hour. But so these are the things. It's that where was I going with that? That people don't understand what we have to sacrifice. People are unwilling to do sacrifice. Right? Is a fundamental thing. Everyone likes to make everyone else sacrifice for them, or to say, okay, and this is the scapegoat mechanism. We scapegoat this group, we get rid of them, things get better. What Girard has also put out is that, well, the scapegoat mechanism, when it was functioning before Christ, means you would make that scapegoat divine. Because if if that group or that person is sacrificed and then things get better, well, obviously they must be godly. Right? They had the power through their sacrifice or being sacrificed to produce good times. So if you are against the Jews, you hate the Jews, don't scapegoat them. You're going to make them gods.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Right? So that's just basic. And I know that's a mind fuck for a lot of people, but it holds true. The other thing too is that, well, the scapegoat mechanism is broken. Christ broke it, right? The innocent victim, the perfect innocent victim, broke the idea of the scapegoat. So bitter white pill here, you can't, you will not get catharsis for getting rid of the Jews this time. It'll actually produce anti-catharsis because you'll know deep down, somewhere inside you, they weren't all guilty. It wasn't all their fault. Those Hasidic guys with Palestinian flags, they're not guilty of that shit. They get it. Right?
And this is, in fact, this is precisely what the entire Zionist movement is about, is trying to bait people into scapegoating them. Right. They want to be scapegoated because they understand, I don't know if this is blood memory or what it is, but they understand the power of being scapegoated. That this is a form of worship. It's an inverted form of worship. When you're scapegoating someone, you're taking all of society's evils and penning them on a single group. You're now creating the exception. You're establishing the exception. You're granting sovereignty to them by making them the scapegoat. This is the greatest form of empowerment that apart from actual Christian worship. It's an inverted demonic form of worship. This is the brilliance. This is the wonder of the cross. Is how it takes this. This is what Girard details. How it takes this perverted form of worship, this scapegoat idea, and it subverts it, and it consumes it in Christ. And once that happens, it will never actually achieve what the people trying to use it to achieve are trying to achieve, because they're revealing Christ in their war against him.
This is also ties into the vengeful son. Because this mechanism is broken, but because they keep going to it, the unvaccinated, now it's the Jews, now it's the Palestinians, now it's the Trump people, now it's the red, it's the blue, it's the woke, it's the right. Multiple scapegoats being played on multiple sides. All these internal crises are, again, not providing any catharsis because the catharsis mechanism is broken. So what ends up happening is now you're waking people up to a sense of betrayal, because what's being promised essentially is that if you attack these people, you'll feel better. You will be better. You're a good person if you attack the bad people. Here, the bad people do bad things to the bad people, you'll feel better. People do that, they don't feel better. They feel worse. Right? Give them enough time. Even the people who are like, no jab, no job, are now wake up to reality like, oh, fuck, we fucked up. Right? We didn't just whoopsie little bit, like I lied or, made a... No, we really fucked up. And that guilt is eating people. So now, and this is what is really intrinsic to the vengeful son thing that I've come up with, or the thing I'm working on, is the vengeful son is a reaction, not just a resentment. It is a resentment. It's still resentment. It's still liberal. but it's a sense of betrayal. And that's different. We haven't had that yet.
Mm-hmm.
Tyrannical father is a reaction to a sense of chaos in trying to impose order, right? Devouring mother is fear and lust towards a tyrannical father, and trying to literally consume her children, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because she wants to be them. She has to be the perpetual victim. No one's more perfect than her in victimhood. The vengeful son, however, is waking up to this sense of betrayal, and you're seeing that everywhere. The JQ stuff and everything like that is attached to that.
Mm-hmm.
Because now people are going, we were told all these things. We agreed to all these things based on this unsigned agreement. And now we're realizing it's all lies. Like, all lies. And that is seismic.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm predicting it's going to be violent.
Mm-hmm.
And it won't be just kinetic violent. It'll be across the board, tear this down completely.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
and then, the only antidote to that is the prodigal son spirit.
Right.
The redemption, the spirit of redemption. We're ending the age of revolution and we're entering the age of redemption. And we're going to manifest this. We're going to keep saying it and we're going to keep manifesting it. You guys can participate in that with us. Here's a great example. This segues really nicely into this. And then I've got one other thing to share after this. So this is a back and forth happening in the replies of poor Dave, the distributist. He kind of earned it. You know, he weighed in on the Fuentes Oren thing that's been going on the last couple of days.
First corn boy, now this. Like, Dave's having a rough month.
Yeah. So there's this guy that's in this chat. He's one of the Fuentes boys. And their whole ethos, I'm not saying this is a characteristic of all of them, but the loud, obnoxious ones that are rampaging around the internet.
There's not loud, obnoxious ones. I think that's
I'm attempting to be gracious and assuming that there are some in the background that are just lurking. I'm offering them an olive branch. They've got this thing in their head now where the scapegoat, initially the scapegoat is the Jews, and then they see this phenomenon as something that's too much for them to take on because it is, and so then they turn their scapegoating focus to the people who they see as potential allies who are betraying them because they are paying insufficient public deference to the JQ. That becomes the new scapegoat.
Yeah, like Orrin McIntyre's writing Goy Slop. That was
right.
It's like, I love it when people I have no reason why they would be paying attention to our little group, but it's like, motherfucker, you stepped in the wrong fucking beehive. Because look, man, I know you have a reputation of being like nasty little fuckers, but we're nasty little fuckers with IQs of roughly 120 to 130. So
yeah, speak for yourself. So this guy,
I'm talking to thought leaders with him.
Yeah. So this guy is one of them that's been just going on and on and on. And so we've engaged him. A few of us have been going back and forth with him, particularly this guy Tactical Aesthete, and then there's another guy down here a little bit further. And one of the things that so they're talking about this idea of Oren's book being Goy Slop because he doesn't. See, here's the thing. Oren could have taken Oren's book is an Amazon bestseller. Oren could have taken a single sentence in this book. There's something Cooper said. Cooper pointed this out when I was on the phone with him the other day. One single sentence in this book could have taken this book from an Amazon bestseller to a banned book. And see, these guys say that, and they're like, well, see, that's proof. That's proof of what we're talking about. There's no Zionist control system. It's proof. Hey, you even admit it yourself. If that's the case, and our goal, we at least we are united in the idea that we want some sort of public recognition of this nefarious thing in society, this nefarious element that's subverting society. We want that gone. Well, you have to live with the world that's in front of you right now. And the world that's in front of you right now is, if you want influence, if you want to actually be able to make a dent in something like this, by definition, it's tautological, you have to be able to influence. So play the game that exists in front of you. Do you think people are going to be more or less likely to connect these dots after they read Oren's book? This is what I said. This guy's, so Tactical Aesthete is going, replying to him. He says, one example of dozens, Oren has done as much as anybody to disabuse American evangelicals of their love for Israel. They're his people, and he knows how to meet them where they're at and speak their language. It doesn't sound like an America First cast, but it's effective for its intended audience. And I said, going after the normie whisperers, because that's what Oren is. Oren is a normie whisperer. He's one of the best that we have. He's absolutely phenomenal, and that's not damning with faint praise. The dude has made an indelible imprint on the narrative, the dialogue, whatever.
He's our Tucker Carlson.
Yes. So I said, going after the normie whisperers for acting like normie whisperers is so transparently retarded and self-defeating that it really makes you wonder to what extent these guys actually want to create a society without Jewish control versus simply having an enemy to fight. And so here's the guy, Pragmatic Culture. He says, this is such an insane cope. Who's he supposedly whispering to that we can see? What's the actual measurable effect that he's had on discourse or action on the right? This, to me, what this sounds like is like the lib scientist who's like, oh, you believe in God? Would you like zoom in with your telescope and you didn't find heaven? Heaven's not out there. I think that was something that Neil deGrasse Tyson said.
Yeah.
The further we look into the heavens, we're finding more and more there's no heaven out there. There's no God sitting on a cloud. This is the same mindset. So Logos Respecter, shout out to this guy. Someone go follow him at Logos Res. He's one of these small accounts, 41 followers. He needs a lot more followers. This guy's great. He says if he's doing his job right, he shouldn't be seen until the tipping point has been reached. Part of being brazen is painting a giant target on your back. Even Dave, the distributist, went through all these issues when critiquing the alt-right when that was popping off. Well, that's also cope. You don't push the boundary by adhering. It's too much bass in the voice. That's also cope. You don't push the boundary by adhering to the standards the system set forth and speaking in whispers about your true ideology. You could say the alt-right was bad at marketing themselves, but this isn't even that. It's just hiding. Logos Respecter says, except that is literally what it is. When the battlefield is ideological, it's fought on ideological grounds. It's nearly tautological. The alt-right was bad at it because the best thinkers were overshadowed by spurgs painting targets on their back for solidarity points. Banger! He continues, it was a failure because bad aspects require gatekeeping, and that involves saboteurs purity spiraling on the most publicly toxic topic. He nailed it. You make fun of libertarians for this all the time with the age of consent questions, and we're seeing the Groyper equivalent. You're asking people to publicly stand on a landmine because the majority of society has made it one. And you're just like, yeah, well, defuse it, bro. That's not how any of this works, and that's not how to stir patronage or power to your cause. It just makes you look insane. I mean, I can't. It's indistinguishable to me. Think about if you were a scheming, hand-rubbing plotter who recognizes that your power is derived from being despised. Like, what sort of person would think that it's a good idea to go around the internet, rampaging around like a retard, demanding that all the most prominent and influential right-wing voices publicly declare their vocal, enthusiastic support for the JQ? Who benefits from this? You're telling me that this isn't like an actual intentionally seeded subversive plot to just get all of the most prominent right-wing voices to completely cancel themselves? Do you actually believe in the idea of this Zionist control of America? Because if you do, then it would stand to reason that the way to win is not to, and I'm just taking their premise on its face. The way to win is to get all of our most influential representatives to just publicly cancel themselves and destroy their own, like that's how we win? You all need to martyr yourselves for my cause. Yeah, fuck off.
This is the problem with the resentment issues, and this is what I was kind of touching on before. I'm getting really sick and tired of being part of the group of people who are trying to do stuff, or being the people who people go, "We'll do things." You're like, "Okay, what do you want me to do? What do you want to do? Oh, get rid of Zionism. All right, okay, let's just go do that. We'll okay, fine, we'll do that." And then I know in the back of my head, it's like, okay, once I do that, you're just going to have a laundry list of other shit that I had to do.
Right.
Like, why don't you do something?
Right. Right.
Wait, send me a box of chocolates, motherfucker. Because last time I checked, I don't work for you. Like, oh, this is just going to make things magically better. How? I live in Australia. You know, okay, look, I tweeted this out a while ago. There was a tweet going around. I guess there was like some, I don't know, thing in Australia where people were like, where are the Jews? And they were trying to frame it like people were trying to hunt the Jews. And I kind of was like, wait, where are the Jews in Australia? There's like, I looked at the numbers. It's like 0.02%. You know, there's 35 million people living in Australia, thereabouts. And there's like 2 Jews. And they both like probably own properties near the golf course near my house. Like, that's it. Like, I know one of them. I actually know one of the Jews who's very well.
Oh, you're compromised.
But I know. Well, I had Yarvin on my show. I told you. I'm done. I'm a sugar. I've taken Yiddish. I've claimed Yiddish. If people haven't realized, it's mine now. They can take it back if they want. But so yeah, it's one of those things. Like, if you want to be in a Jew-free area, come to Australia. There's like none of them here. They don't have no influence. I walk around my day going, I don't see any Jews. Like, they're just, I'm looking for them just in case, you know, like a fucking snake bite me out of the wood pile. They're
That's
not
anti-Semitic.
There. Well, you know, it's not, they like tunnels. What can I tell you? But it's not me. I'm not making this shit up. They're doing it.
Yeah, they literally climbed out of them.
Yeah, there's tons of places you can live where there's just no Jews. If that's your big deal. China, I don't know how many Jews are in China. Probably not that many, right? You probably probably see them from a mile away. They're all in the one bagel shop. But so I'm just trying to figure out exactly like what you want we to do. And that's the other thing I'm getting sick and tired of. We need to do that. I whenever I hear we, I'm like, oh, you mean me? Oh, you mean I have to do this for you? Okay, sign up for $2 for my membership program.
Right, give me money. Send me a box of chocolates,
folks.
bitch.
It's $2. Just sign up for the monthly thing. Don't cancel in a month, and I'll see what I can do for you. But like, I'm just my thing is like, okay, I'm just going to assume that they don't exist or that they have no power over me because I don't think they do. And that's the other great thing too. Like a lot of these other things going on in the world, you know, people are freaking out about AI and all those things. I'm like, it's a toy. It's a cool toy. It's fun. It's nifty. I use it for thumbnails. It's very nice for thumbnails. But why are you freaking out, man? Like, these are the same people who promised you like flying cars 30, 40 years ago. These are the people who told you the internet was going to do all these wonderful things, and it just basically is an advanced message board. Like, I don't know why you keep falling for the same shit. They're just stealing your money. They're not even stealing your money. They're just stealing other people's money to finance their little hedge. Like, oh, there's nanobots. No, there isn't. Oh, the vaccine had all this stuff. No, it doesn't. I guarantee you. As I'll be bold here. 99% of that shit was sugar water. Because you know why? It's a lot cheaper to produce sugar water, but sell the idea that you're creating this new giant cool thing and get everyone's money in, and then just produce sugar water than actually to do anything novel and new. Because novel and new is really hard. You're dealing with corrupt people. Corrupt people are easy to understand. They're corrupt. They just want to take your money. Why? They're corrupt. Who was it? I think Cat Williams once said on one of those interviews things. He said, people don't know why people lie. People are liars. Like there's some people are just liars. They just lie. They just do it. They don't know why. And you know, you look at Mitch McConnell, or you look at any of these guys. The whole Ukraine scandal thing. These guys are making billions of dollars, stuffing their pockets full, when they already have billions of dollars, and they're 90. They're dead. Like they're walking dead. They can't spend it. They just keep producing it. They just keep doing it because it's all they know. And this is your enemy class. I'm not threatened anymore. That's why I put my face on it. Why I say the N word on the show. Like why I do a lot of these things. It's like because I'm trying to prove to you. Even if my show gets canceled, right? They come to me. They take my bank account. So it's an annoyance. It's a pain in the ass. That's all they have. They have the power to annoy you. And that's about it.
And you control whether or not you allow that.
Right. Even the guy who was put in the UK was put in jail for putting like bumper stickers, which is dumb, by the way. Don't do that. Someone shared something. Sorry, man, I'll throw this over to you. It's your show. And please don't let me talk forever because I will. But someone sent me a thing about some kid whose bank account got seized in Australia for sharing his dissident right political views. I didn't really look into it. I just look at the face of the kid. I'm like, you're probably just being like 19 and doing swastika shit, and like saying really obvious things. The easiest thing to do is to talk at a level that they can't understand, which is literally grade 6. You don't even need a big vocabulary. Like I want them to haul me in front of a judge and have me to describe civilizational capitals.
Yeah, right.
Well, they see okay, so the idea started. There's a woman crossing the Congo on a piece of sticks, right? And I'll write it all out, and I just want to see their dumb little faces go, like I'm explaining a magic trick to a monkey, like, and then at the end, like, so I guess I'm racist, but but just whatever.
Put me in
right?
chains.
Yeah, do the thing. But
you're speaking of.
Fire me for my job, please. Like, you kidding me? Please.
Speaking of sugar water, one of the things I think some more stuff I want to share here in the future. The if you really understand the power of the human mind, all they would need to do is give out sugar water and convince you that it's something other than that, and your brain will turn it into something other than that.
And produce 2 narratives. Positive, negative.
Yep.
It's curing people, it's killing people.
Mm-hmm.
It was a leak from a laboratory. Ooh, spooky. Ooh, sugar water. They've been selling this shit out. Look, man, you just go watch like all those old Western movies. Those guys selling like tonics and stuff. We know what was in the tonic? Fucking nothing. Right? It was like a seltzer.
Right, but if you believe it's something, human belief is the most powerful force in the universe. If you believe something is true, you'll make it true. One other thing I wanted to, Patrick Spellman here said, do assets get banned from banks, referring to our good friend Nicky Boy. And I'll say, first of all, like, I'm inclined to like Nick. I think fundamentally he means well. I think he's in completely over his head. And he's suffering from the malaise, the angry young man phenomenon, and he's very well spoken, very good at depicting that and rallying a crowd of people. But he also doesn't know what to do with those people once he gets them. He's gone into character. There's stuff you see where he's like off camera, and he's just kind of just like a dude, But he goes into character on camera, and now he's become trapped by his character. This is the way it seems to me. We talked about when you first started doing the Friend or Fed bit over on 2-Bit Podcast, which is fantastic. One thing that we quickly differentiated is there's broadly 2 kinds of feds. There's the Fed who's like on the payroll, who's meeting up with people and being given a check. And then there's the Fed, which is like the worst kind. That's like at least a more honest Fed. The worst kind of Fed is the guy who's not even on the payroll. He's just possessed by the message of the feds who are on the payroll, and he does it for free. He can't even grift off of it. He just does it for free because he's so wrapped up into it. I don't know whether Fuentes is one or the other.
It's a very important distinction to make. What are you going to do? Let's do an impromptu Nick Fuentes Friend or Fed. I think he's a Fed.
I think so too, yeah. And I think And I think he doesn't have to be either. I think he could stop being a Fed anytime he wanted. And really, the distinction of whether he's actually, I know I've seen the evidence of stuff that he's actually met with these people, and there's a good, the thing with January 6th and all that. Like, I understand all that. even if he's not actually literally on the payroll, he's still functionally acting as if he is. His effect on the world is that. Now, because all things work together for good, yeah, you could draw good things out of it. I think, he'd moving the conversation forward and yada, yada. Like, yeah, there are good aspects to it. But on net, particularly the way that his audience behaves, and your audience is ultimately a reflection of you. If you have an audience, the way your audience goes out and behaves is a reflection of you and the way that you're conditioning them to go behave. And the way his audience behaves is like a bunch of feds. They're one of the greatest assets to the Zionist control that there could be. They're the foot soldiers. They're the unwitting foot soldiers, which is even worse.
It's why big numbers, the number desire is very dangerous. Because people think, I have big numbers, I have a big subscriber count, my views, look at my view count, look how it shines, look at how big it is, right? And it's like, yeah, but look at the people that consider who's in that group. If all you have is flies, then what good is it? Like, it's one of those little things. I look at the numbers and I'm like, I'll just shut up my show for a second. Like, we're constantly growing. It's been a crazy year, and thank you for everyone who's been liking, subscribing, and doing the show. Because across platforms, it doesn't look like much, but if you do all the deeper dive in the numbers, it's like, these are good. One step closer to doing this full time, but I could easily do certain things and jump and get from 2,500 whatever I'm at to 20,000 in a very short period of time. But I realized that by doing those things, all I would be doing is attracting certain people who I do not want. I do not want these people because they're useless people. They're only going to be showing up for the attraction, for the right? Is Jason going to get canceled? Is he saying all the no words? Is he, or whatever, right? Just cat videos. Like, they're useless people. I'm cultivating an audience, and I think, Matt, I know you're doing the same thing. We're cultivating certain people, and we're constantly going, look, here's a line, here's the edge, and we're going to keep raising the bar, and we want you to raise the bar with us. And if you become dead weight, or you start being too stupid to hang, you gotta go. Like, go away, figure your shit out, always come back. The whole thing with Nick, I've been seeing these comments like, you should work with him and convert him, and why? What the fuck am I doing? What? No, I'm 47 years old. I got a toddler. I got a full-time job, and I do this full-time. The fuck time do I have to do shit? Like, the fuck time do I have to? We have to convert Nick Fuentes. Fuck you. You go convert Nick Fuentes. You go get his head out of his ass, and then sure, come on, talk, right? Like, doors are always open, but until then, no. Or the graper. The fuck off with this shit. I don't got time for this stuff. I'll make fun of them because it's fun. And libertarians it just feels like I don't want to make fun of libertarians anymore because it just feels like I'm kicking a.
We've got a new addition.
Yeah, I'm kicking a Bell's palsy kid. Like,
we have the new and improved libertarians now. Right. What you're saying about the audience is interesting because I think if you're honest, I know that I believe this and I think you believe this as well. Like, when you have an audience like this applies to Nick as well. You are controlled by your audience to some extent, and you have to be honest about this. Like, this is why we want to cultivate a good audience of good people, because we know by cultivating an audience, we're going to be beholden to that audience, and we need to ensure that this relationship is in proper order. Ultimately, this is you've talked about the medium and the message and the audience, the connection. We're offering that connection, and we're looking for that connection, and we know that this is a two-way street where you guys show up and you listen to us, and we show up and we talk to you, and this needs to be a wholesome, edifying encounter for both of us. And all the people that I've seen people, you guys are just nagging. You're nagging. No, you fuckers are nagging. This is to talk about Nick and to talk to him and project this out. I'm not going to go fucking call him or that fucking woman behavior. We've got the show. We're talking about it. We have our profiles that we're putting this out there, and we're holding him to account. Be a man. Act like a man. This is man behavior. The nagging is when you... We're not nagging him. We're saying, shape the fuck up or get the fuck out of the way.
I also love it when anons tell me to be like, to go put my dick in the fucking wasp nest. Like, oh, okay, asshole. Like, I'm a face fag. Like, my name's right here. Like, one, because I'm pretty confident. I think it would be cute if someone like swatted me down where I live. Like, there's like three Australians and a fucking thwart warbler show up my door.
And all the guys that are on this mission are like, motherfucker, like, we got to drive all the way out here.
No, they would know me they would know me for my work now too. Like, be like, oh, that guy, no.
You pour my drinks.
Yeah, fucking idiot. So yeah, please go ahead. Or get me fired. That'd be even better. I hate my job. Like, get me deported at this point. It's funny when I was actually fearing that at one point. Now, yeah, but at the same time, it's like, hey, you can put your face out here too. Like, why don't you put your name up here? Like, why don't you throw some cards on the table, asshole, and then we can talk about what we are going to do. Because I'm kind of, I don't want to keep hammering this point, but it's just it's been on my mind all day. Let's put it that way.
All right, I got something to wrap this up with that is nice and wholesome. You'll appreciate this, Jason. So this guy Derek Balsley, that's a great name, Balsley. He says, whenever I'm explaining Orthodox Christianity to inquirers, I always emphasize the necessity of holding two seemingly opposed ideas in your hands at the same time. The beauty is in the balance. We've already kind of touched on this a little bit with the masculinity and femininity. This is the both and phenomenon. Father Thomas Hopko calls this orthodoxy as paradoxy. Here are 11 Orthodox paradoxes to contemplate. So Father Thomas Hopko says, the scripture is very clear. If you want to find yourself, lose yourself. If you want to fulfill yourself, empty yourself. You want to be great, be the least. You want to be first, be the last. You want to be rich, become poor. You want to be wise, become a fool. If you want to rule, become a servant. Really, orthodoxy is paradoxy. That's just what it is. So here's number one. God as transcendent and eminent. So on one hand, God is transcendent. He is utterly beyond human understanding, beyond all creation, infinitely holy and majestic. He's also immanent. He's intimately present in all creation, closer to us than our own breath, and actively involved in our lives. Slaves, yet free. Every Christian is called to be a slave of God, to live according to his will and embody his will on earth. And yet true freedom. Only through our servitude to God can humanity truly live free from the passions and our bondage to sin. What this reminds me of is you think there's one of these things that we've lost about the more natural, true structure of society with the rise of individualism and all this sort of thing. Once upon a time, you were identified with your family, whether it was your flesh and blood family or the family that you were employed to, that you were in bondage to. And we look at this today and we're, oh, that'd be terrible. But if you took a slave, like a slave of some nobleman, and you just cast him out in the street, okay, you're free now, he'd be fucked. He doesn't have anywhere to live. Nobody will do business with him. They don't know how to trust him. When he goes out and he does business in the market, he's doing business in the name of his master. People will transact with him because he represents his master. And they know that if he tries to screw him over, they have recourse with his master. The great cruelty would be to eliminate that relationship and just throw him out. This is why being an orphan was terrible, because it wasn't like you were some individual. This was mediated through men. So a woman who was divorced, if a man divorced the woman, it's basically unpersoning her. She doesn't have a role in society. She could sit on the street and beg. And these are some of the ties that bound society together and allowed it to function properly. Just the same. This is one of the key flaws in libertarian self-ownership bullshit. No, you don't own yourself. It's not even possible to own yourself. It is ontologically impossible for you to have this status of freedom from a master. Because if you're not enslaved to God, you're enslaved to the devil. You're enslaved to sin. This is the definition of being enslaved to sin, is not being enslaved to God, not having him as your master, as your representative, existing in his image and likeness, carrying his name with you. And paradoxically, when you are enslaved to him and you do carry his name with you, that is when you're free. You're free to operate within the order and structure and beauty of creation as he's created it.
Let me just jump in here for a second.
Yeah.
One of your comments here, Patrick Spellman, early life check required. You can live your sad life and make excuses for where you're at now. I'm going to live my awesome 25-year-old life and laugh at you old men yelling at the clouds. So actually, that is your job. Your job is to actually laugh at us at 25. And then when you're 47, you look back and go, oh, I should have been laughing. Right? Now, maybe
you're the kid on his bike face planting off the jump right now.
Right. Maybe God will be. We're all going to encounter this in our own way. Some of us need to encounter it hard. Some of us can encounter it easy. I had to encounter it hard. I have to go through. I have to live it experientially. I have to suffer. I have to come through God through suffering. And that's true for many, but I'll speak personally, that's especially true for me because I'm hard-headed and I'm belligerent. So God has found a way to get my head up my ass in a way that works for me, which is like making me move to a beach town where I hate the beaches. Okay, but it's ironic, but I appreciate paradoxes. So with this Spellman kid, God bless, man. I hope whatever journey whatever way God's gonna encounter you, or you're gonna encounter God, I hope it goes well for you. I mean that, and yes, laugh at the old men, but realize that one day you will be an old man. What's the Orthodox saying is, what you were, I once was, and what I am, you will be, and it's carved on the skulls of the dead in mausoleums. Something to reflect on. But yeah.
Another Orthodox paradox. Strength. Through the power of Christ, we find true strength and resilience in the face of adversity and suffering. Compared to weakness, only by recognizing our own weakness and reliance on God are we strong. We do good only in cooperation with him. As Ryan Isaac said, if you're not united to life, you are tied to its opposite. This is definitional. So to be strength, to be strength, you must become weakness.
Are you strong? Judge. I am strong.
Strong. Let's
strong.
get some strong emotes in the chat. Stronk, I think is what it is. So another paradox. Don't judge and judge in love. So be wary of hypocrisy and never condemn others. Extend grace, knowing all are imperfect and in need of God's mercy. This is like Father Seraphim Rose said, to always justify the sins of others and never justify your own. This is actually, incidentally, we were talking about the Golden Rule a little while ago. Someone in there said they think the Golden Rule is stupid or something. And I think it's because the modern lib interpretation of the Golden Rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, is kind of like, well, if you want nice things, then do nice things or something, which sure, that's maybe a nice anodyne simplification of it. But the actual meaning is put yourself in their shoes. Imagine yourself as them. Justify them in the position that they're in. Recognize that if you were them, you would be in the exact same place they are. And then do to them as you would want done to you if you were at them in their place, in their shoes at this point in time.
Which includes a good, strong smack alongside the head.
Yes. Judge in love. Here you go. In humility and compassion, we speak the truth in love to help our neighbors recognize sin and grow closer to God. So you have to hold both of these at once. Never judge, but also judge in love. Seeking perfection, relying on grace. Seeking perfection, we seek to be perfect as our Father in heaven is perfect, to prepare that the Holy Spirit may indwell in us. We also rely on grace. We are weak and sinful, spiritually blind and ill. Our only hope lies in God's inexhaustible grace and mercy. I kind of hinted toward this a little while ago when I said, you know, all things work together for good. We must be constantly building and creating and extending outward as men throughout all the cycles of all of human history, throughout all of human existence, for however long it extends out into the future. There's no utopia. We're not going to build utopia, and yet we must also build utopia. We must build the city of God. We'll never build the city of God. We're not capable of building the city of God. And yet we must labor to build the city of God, because it is in that process that he meets us with his grace.
It's the paradox of also modeling yourself with Christ. You know, so you're modeling yourself with the most perfect divine human being. You'll never be that perfect divine human being in this life, but the closer you get to it is the whole point. So, as like you said, the whole point of civilizational capital and understanding the mechanism and being able to formalize it in a narrative and a structure, so that we can pass it along to future generations. It's like when in shit break glass, is not to fix it. It's it's not to fix it, like to fix the broken toy. It's to fix it. Right? You fix it. You make it a fixation. Right? Like the covenant worn in the headband against the head or in the heart. Right? You fix it in your head. You fix it in the life, so that you know where to go. Right? Where is true north? We'll find the North Star. Right? Point yourself. If you are of civilization, if you are men of civilization, build civilization. If you've lost your way, direct yourself back to this. Go back to towns. Okay, you no longer live in a civilization. Whoops. Right? You've inherited a broken thing that's beyond your ability to fix. No problem. Go back to the stone that was discarded. Right? Find the place where they're not looking. Find the place that's not valuable. Build from the in value. Right? Because who has value? We have value. We are made in the image of God. Right? We have human capital is the building block. Time, attention. That's all you need. Water, food, all those other things. Sure. But you know what I'm saying?
We're not called to fix civilization. We're called to affix civilization as our North Star.
Right.
You don't need to fix it. You need to be fixing it.
Yeah. Always be in the process, because what did I write today or put it up today is that the king, civilization is the mirror. So we're talking about how I think you were talking about this on the show yesterday. The king is a mirror. The king reflects the citizens reflect the king. Something that was saying about civilization. In a proper civilizational form, the people are reflecting the civilization reflects them. So when you go out and say, I'm an American, people know what you are, right? They can have their own personal opinions on that, but it's clear, right? So civilization is the mirror, and let's say the king is the light that shines, that gives you the reflection, and everyone then is reflected in the mirror. So while I can't become the king, I can't participate in the king. I'm not the king, nor will I ever be. But I can participate in that which is that which, and I'm building this out in lifetime, so forgive me if I'm stumbling. That which is is the vessel of the king, right? And on all the kings that come after them, all the rulers of this civilization, right? The civilization itself is the thing that we're after. The ruler is just a ruler, right? We wish for good ones. Sometimes we'll have good ones, sometimes we'll have bad ones, or sometimes we'll have none at all. But it's the civilization itself that has to be maintained. That's the vessel. And again, when all goes when it's all mashugana, go back to simple building blocks.
And if you have bad rulers, again, as this reflection, if you have bad rulers are born out of bad people. The people themselves are bad, so the rulers they produce are bad. So you can both of these things simultaneously have to change. The leaders have to become better, and the people have to become better. Better people deserve better rulers. Better rulers create better people. But in order to have the better rulers, you have to have the better people to become the better rulers. So it seems mundane, but making your bed, beginning in your own, the only way you change the world is by changing yourself. And when you change yourself, it literally, you are introducing a new metaphysical reality that radiates out from you. So you actually do change the world by changing yourself. I mean, if you could think of this in terms of like the world includes you. So if you have the whole set of all the things that are the world and you change yourself, well, that whole set has now changed. And there's a physical reality to this, that it radiates out from your own change. And so the more people who are individually making these changes, the more this set is being transformed.
We can do a riff on Sargon's thing. I wouldn't even want to rule you. That's kind of our elite class right now. They're like, they don't want to rule us. Why? Even the libertarian become ungovernable. Well, so you become like schmucks, like you're just fucking complaining assholes. Like, yeah, I wouldn't even want to rule you. I wouldn't even want to enslave you. It would be a waste of my time. What a waste of effort.
Create the reality wherein you can draw no good leaders.
Right. Would you like some blankets? Hey, I'm not going to rule you. Have some blankets. Don't worry. They're free. It's cold outside.
Yeah, right.
Share them amongst your friends.
Another paradox. Grace. Salvation is a free gift from God through his grace alone, unearned and undeserved. Works. Faith without works is dead. Our cooperation with God's grace leading to inner transformation is salvation. Son of God and Son of Man. Jesus Christ is fully God, co-eternal with the Father, the divine Logos possessing all divine attributes. Jesus Christ is fully human, sharing in our human nature, human will, human experience, even death. Both are true, both and. Life of peace and life of struggle. Our peace in Christ gives us our faith in Christ gives us a peace that surpasses all understanding, overcoming even fear of death. Juxtaposed with struggle, the Christian life is spiritual warfare, striving against sin and temptation while turning back toward God. This is repentance. So we find peace in the struggle, and there's struggle in our peace. Fallen humanity and sons of God. Through the fall, humanity has been blinded and made ill. As sinners, we require redemption through Christ. But yet also, we are created in the image of God, and we represent the crown of creation. We are responsible to do God's will on earth. So we are both the greatest and the least at once. In order to become greater, we must become lesser. As we become lesser, we become greater. God is three and God is one. God exists as three distinct persons, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, each fully God and co-eternal. These three persons share one essence and are perfectly united without division or separation.
Well, now you're just going to piss off the bears now, too.
Yeah, right. Both and. Both three and one. And there are such... When you have this framework, all of science becomes so fascinating because you begin seeing this phenomenon, the simultaneous threeness and oneness. It's not one or the other, it's both. It's threeness and oneness together. This is manifested throughout all of creation. Humble human identity and cosmic human identity. Next to God, I am nothing. Infinitely flawed and sinful. Any good I've done, credit to the glory of God alone. And yet, I am a son of God created in his image. I fight along all humanity in a spiritual war of cosmic proportions. Humility and greatness. You could also think of this as like locality and universality. Within the locality is the universality. Within the universality is the locality. Universality is expressed locally, and locality is manifested universally.
I think also for modernists, the word war is too packed now. Because people think war, they're just thinking like Steven Spielberg movie. Really, what I think the better way of understanding war is conflict. right? To be conflicted, to be wrestling with God, to go back to Jacob, right? This is a war. It's not just like a hot war with bombs and stuff like that. It's or two competing armies. It's the conflict with it's the conflict and the tension of the human spirit, of nature, of reality itself, where reality is presenting itself, and we're constantly trying to make it what we want it to be. Because so it's a bit, right? Like I complain about Australian beaches and all that stuff. It's a bit. It's based in reality and truth, but it's authentic. But I'm always guarding myself in my own private moments. I'm guarding myself because I understand that my criticism of these things is a criticism of God, and I don't deserve to criticize God. So I'm always tempered by that in my own moments. Even when I'm criticizing other people, I work with a Patel who's fucking stupid and makes my life really difficult, right? And I don't like him. He's definitely one of those, like, he'd be rolling around in cow shit, man. He's one of those. But I keep praying for my heart to be softened towards him, because he is a creation of God. And in some weird way, he's in my life to teach me something, or to provide me an opportunity to not be so critical. And as I grow sympathy for him, I soften my heart, and I become more accepting of God's creation. That's a hard one. It's fucking hard with Patels, man. I tell you, that was fucking music in the kitchen, the whole fucking thing.
You know, we in Orthodox churches we say many years. And when I first started going, I was like, oh, this is the thing we say. And I just kind of assumed, oh, many years. It's like, yeah, we hope for a long life for you. But I learned what it actually, the basis of it is. And what it is a shortened version of, may God grant you many years for repentance. That you have many years to fight and struggle and to do war with God. As Jacob did, wrestling with the angel, wrestling with Christ. And this is interesting. This thought just occurred to me, hailing back to the conversation about about God's chosen people. It's fascinating that they have invited upon themselves this label, Israel, the one who wrestles with God. They don't fully appreciate the pact that they've engaged in, the thing they've signed on to. They've signed on to being the people who identify with wrestling with God. And what happens when you wrestle with God? Well, God touches your hip and it dislocates and you go, ah, fuck. And then you have a limp for the rest of your life to remind you what happened when you wrestled with God. So they've invited this onto themselves. And I don't think they have any idea truly what the actual significance of that is.
Well, because it's baked in irony. And someone said this recently, and I've built on this, is that you can't worship ironically. It's impossible. Yep. You can't get married ironically. You can't. There's certain things that, like, I mean, you can technically, but it doesn't work. Then it's just it's a satire. It's an SNL skit. It's not really what it is. So if you want to engage in it, this is why gay marriage doesn't work. It's because we all know it's not. And they know it's not. And we know it's not. And everyone's just like, everyone's pretending to be stupid, because to be nice. But we're heading into a period of time where stupid lies are not going to serve you anymore. And you can be in denial of reality all you want, but it's hitting home now hard.
Saving life. Those who seek to save their life by worldly means and self-preservation will ultimately lose it. Only those who lose their life for Christ, sacrificing self-interest for love and truth, will save their life. We are unworthy. As I approach divine communion, burn me not as I partake, for you are fire which burns the unworthy. And yet we are partakers. You have smitten me with yearning and changed me. Make me worthy. Cleanse my soul and save me as I partake. We are both unworthy, and yet we partake. And we're not, and strange wonder, We aren't burned. There's the I think it was 11 Orthodox paradoxes. So, over the 2.5 hour mark, thank you, Jason, for jumping on here. Appreciate it. It's probably time for you to get to sleep, huh?
Yes, it's early. It's like 2 a.m.
Oh, geez. Well, appreciate you hopping on here. Appreciate you guys being here.
You.
This is fun. I'm enjoying doing these morning shows. My head is absolutely exploding, so I'm going to go treat myself to some various therapies to get my head to chill out.
It's all my brilliance, man.
That's right. I can't contain it.
Too many good ideas for you. But have Cryptos on. You guys should talk.
Yep. I'm going to reach out to him.
If you need help facilitating that, I mean, I don't think you do, but if you do, let me know.
We got our hype man in the chat. Taylor Brown says subscribe to the Discord. Yes, please do. Jason's in there as well. Kingpill.com. You can sign up there. Come join us. Well, Emmanuel says suggestion, raid Baron Strawberry. Okay, this is great. I actually didn't have anyone to raid today, so let me find his channel and we'll do that. You guys can go raid him. Redirect. Is his channel name just Baron Strawberry? Baron Strawberry.
I need to learn how to do this.
So what you do, okay, yeah, he's got a stream right now. Are liberals just evil? That's a banger. So what you do is when you go into your YouTube studio and you hit edit, you go down to customization, and then you just scroll down to redirect, and then you can search for the channel. Now they have to have it enabled to allow people to raid them, but so I just popped that in there. It looks like he started streaming a little under an hour ago. So if you guys just hang out in the chat, as soon as I end the stream, you'll automatically be transported over there. Tell him that King Pilled sent you, and we will be back here tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, as of right now at least, a couple things I have in the hopper to talk about involve some reinforcement of my theory that Texas is on the trajectory to become the new seat of the American empire. We are at the birth of the American empire. We're experiencing the birth pangs of it, and the British Empire is the mother that is dying in childbirth. We are experiencing these pains, and the future, within, I don't know, sometime the next 30, 50, 100 years, something like that, Texas is going to become the new seat of the American empire. And then there's some interesting stuff happening in Mexico as well. We're going to tie that in. So we should have another interesting conversation on that tomorrow. We'll be live about 10 a.m. Central. You guys can come join us then. Until then, go follow me on Twitter at RealKingPilled. Like the stream, share it, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you know when we go live.